early this morning, which was nice. It was about 83 degrees. We might get a little rain, kind of cooled down. At least it's not 100, but, it's July in Utah, and we live in the desert, so it's going to be warm. Happy Tuesday. How are you? Thanks for making the show a part of your day. It is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. That is my name. Hosting the program today, Porter Larson, along for the ride, producing the show, booking the show, and we got a lot to do. A lot to do on the show, a lot to do on the program. Real Salt Lake will resume their season tomorrow against LAFC as the summer of soccer continues. For those of you that have been, captivated, intrigued, maybe on a different level as a result of the World Cup being played on domestic soil here, the good news is soccer continues with MLS announcing the Thank You World Will Take It From Here campaign. John Kimball hopped on my podcast today. We're going to bring that back around for you a little bit later on. Some really good stuff to kind of help you guys understand how you can get involved the rest of the way for RSL. And what can MLS expect as far as a bump in interest in soccer as a result of the World Cup. So stay tuned for that. We'll talk a little soccer on the show today. We are 45 days away from kickoff for Utah football. College football is right around the corner. We're going to talk some football on the show today. Kyle Bonagura will be our first guest right out of the gates from ESPN. He covers college football, and he covers soccer as well for the worldwide leader. Speaking of the worldwide leader, layoffs, bloodbath, merger with the NFL Network, mandating that ESPN lay some people off. As we talked about yesterday when it broke, the story is now that Ryan Clark finished his segment with NFL Live and was told right after that that he had been let go. And, it's kind of an interesting ecosystem now because you have media members reporting on other media members, which is kind of a weird deal. It didn't used to be that way. So, like, Andrew Marchand from The Athletic spent a number of years with the New York Post. His new grift is he reports on other media members losing their jobs. And I guess Carl Ravitch and maybe David Lloyd, some other ESPN, Cam Newton, Bart Scott, Safina Bell, I believe. Apparently, they found out on social media that they were losing their jobs as opposed to people at ESPN actually informing them, which I think is a really, really pathetic look from ESPN. And a lot of former ESPN personalities have chimed in on this. Namely, Dan Patrick had some things to say. A lot of commentary from the sports media ecosystem. Look, this is a wild business, okay? And none of us decided to get into this because of the job security. I feel very fortunate that I've been doing this for the better part of 20 years. We're approaching our 8-year anniversary on this show. That's coming up next month. And that's great. But on a level where you get to with some of these guys on ESPN, it's tough to keep that gig, especially with the way this business has changed. I mean, they're essentially paying Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith like $100 million plus per year to hold on to those two personalities. And therefore, the collateral damage is some of these other personalities. And once upon a time, I actually thought Ryan Clark was going to evolve into a really good NFL analyst, but he never really improved. And he kind of turned into this like angry, mean bully and kind of rested on his laurels because when he first started doing the thing, he would be on Van Pelt's show. He was on Monday Night Countdown. And he was a hell of a player. And oftentimes, it's funny. We don't spend a ton of time on this, but there's not a straight line. Like Ryan Clark, one of the things he did is he got into Peter Schrager about not playing football. I've always found that to be like the lowest of low-hanging fruit. I can point to some of the greatest players that have ever played that were just atrocious analysts and quite frankly still are. And some of the best analysts never played or maybe just played a little. I do think it helps to have played a sport at some level when you try to provide some perspective on athletics. It helps if you were involved a little bit. And some of the guys, a lot of the play-by-play guys go up and throw a baseball at them or throw a football and they'll panic. They don't know what to do. Or watch them swing a golf club. I do think it helps if you have some sort of skin in the game, but the low-hanging fruit that Ryan Clark decided to utilize to make Peter Schrager look like an idiot, to me, that moment that's been pointed to quite a bit, that's a microcosm of what he became. And it didn't have to be that way. When he first started out with Van Pelt and those guys on Monday Night Countdown, I'm like, I think Ryan can be good at this, but he never really it just didn't feel like he decided to put in the work to improve, and he just apparently wasn't very fun to work with. But some interesting stuff going on at ESPN where they're going through layoffs as a result of the merger with the NFL. Disney, I guess, as a company, is going through a bunch of layoffs. And then they've got to make some space because of this new contract they signed Pat McAfee to, and, of course, Stephen A. Smith. So some interesting stuff going on at ESPN today. We are still waiting to hear where LeBron James is going to play basketball. It's not the only domino to fall, but it is by far the biggest domino to fall. Rich Paul did an interview today, because of course he did, that they're not in a rush yet. No kidding. We're aware of that. If you were in a rush, you would have made the decision by now. I guess he went on a podcast. Oh, wait, no, he hosts this podcast with Max Kellerman. I loved how he said this is not about attention. Kind of feels like it kind of is about attention, as we're all kind of waiting to see how this goes down. Ultimately, Adam Silver has discussed his preference for this thing to be settled so they can set the NBA schedule. The names out there continue to be the same as Golden State, Philadelphia, Cleveland, and Miami. Most reports believe that LeBron is going back to the Eastern Conference, whether it's Cleveland, Philly, or Miami. I haven't read much about Minnesota or Denver. I know they were mentioned before. So that's kind of the deal. The Jazz have 15 players under contract. We'll get a little NBA offseason today. It does feel like the Jazz are probably done. I think it's reasonable to expect this team to take a jump. Josh Okogie and Mo Bamba were the last additions. Certainly things could change prior to the start of the season. But the NBA offseason kind of rolls along. We got training camps going on in the NFL. Football season will be here before you know it. So a lot to do on a busy Tuesday drive. As I referenced, Kyle Bonagura is going to be our first guest to do a little college football and maybe a little World Cup soccer. John Kimball, president of Real Salt Lake, was my guest on the podcast today. And you're going to hear that in the 3 o'clock hour of the show. And then Big T Thurl Bailey live in studio. My guy. Can I get Thurl to sing today? That is my goal, to get Thurl Bailey to sing for us today. But, of course, we'll talk some jazz and some – let's see what T has going on. He's an interesting guy. He's a little bit of an entrepreneur. He has a lot of things that he likes to do outside of just be on the call with Bowler for Jazz games. So Kyle Bonagura, John Kimball, Big T Thurl Bailey live in studio, and the producer of this program, Porter Larson, on a Tuesday. You're fired.
Thanks.
You're not.
I'll see you. I'll see you never.
I very much can't fire you. I don't want to fire you. But
you don't think you could?
I'm sure I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You could. There are very few, you could pull some strings.
There are very few people in this building I couldn't fire. If I really wanted to.
Okay.
I have an update for you about my new position.
Okay.
We'll talk about it during the break. That's got to be a weird deal, though. Like, you are recording a segment and doing your job, and you finish the segment and suddenly get a phone call like, hey, thanks for all your work this morning, but you're no longer employed by us.
And yeah, I guess technically it was Andrew Marchand and the Athletics' fault in a way for reporting on something that is more of a personal deal, but we're in a different space now. We're in that type of economy where you can get clicks, you report it, man. And on the other note, like for ESPN, how do you let Andrew Marchand know before you let the employees know, right? Yeah. That's unfortunate. That's a weird thing in today's 24/7 news cycle that is part of the sports world as well. So, yeah, that's got to suck. But as you mentioned, Ryan Clark, who is a good analyst, like you can talk to him about football, and he can break down what you're seeing in front of you in a really, I think, positive and good way. Apparently, just wasn't that behind the scenes and with the people he worked with. So that's part of a job as well. But yeah, maybe try to fire people in your office in private.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's you're not fired. You're very much still hired. You're still employed.
Also, as the ESPN 700 weather correspondent. Did I hear you characterize 83 degrees as chilly today?
It's been 100 degrees for like a year straight, dude. Does it not feel a little colder today than it has for the past 10 days?
Ish, but yeah.
That's my entire point.
Okay. I was just double-checking something
on the grand scheme of things, 83 degrees is not cool. It feels a little cooler today than it has felt, Porter.
Fair.
Goodness gracious. Would you like to add some color to the current weather report about what's going on outside?
It's hot.
But is it as hot as it has been for the last 10 days?
No.
That's my whole point.
But it's hot. So.
Yeah, it's you know what? Never mind. It is hot. It is warm. Okay. All right. Moving on. Excited to catch up with Kyle Bonagura today. It's been a while. A little college football with Kyle, a little soccer as well. He'll be our first guest. But before Kyle stops by, if he's still employed, we should probably make sure our guy is good. Courtesy of our good friends at Game Day Men's Health. It's time now for your opening tip. All right. Here's the deal. If you are at work streaming us online, open up your web browser, if they still call it that. Firefox, whatever you use. Or if you're...
Yeah, Firefox.
Isn't it Firefox? That's a web browser. What do you use these days?
Definitely not that. I did use a Mozilla Firefox at one point, though.
I think I still use that.
I think like 80% of the world is now on like Google Chrome, Safari if you're on Mac.
Okay. All right. Well, Safari,
Just
Chrome,
open it.
Firefox, 83 degrees is hot, and now we're arguing over internet browsers. We're off to a rousing start. Whatever you use to get online, okay, open that up, type in GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Okay, I'm going to give you a second. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Schedule your free consultation. Okay, we're going to do that today. You probably heard me talking about Game Day Men's Health. It's time to take advantage of this. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Schedule a free consultation that takes about 20 to 30 minutes of your time. That's all. It is free. It costs you nothing, and there's no obligation. So we're going to schedule that today, okay? And then you're going to go in there for this consultation. It's going to take about 20 to 30 minutes. They're going to take a little bit of blood, then they're going to sit with you, and they're going to go over your levels with you, okay? They're going to tell you, okay, you're doing really well here, and then there's some areas that are a little bit deficient over here. Here are the products that we have that can help you with these areas. If you are trying to lose weight, get in shape, get back in shape, get in better shape, or maybe you need to lose a lot of weight, maybe your health is in danger at this point, utilize this offer because you get 50% off of your membership when you tell them you heard me talking about it. As of next month, I'll have been working with Game Day Men's Health for 3 full years. And the good news is they helped me get into really good shape right away. And I've kept it exactly where I need to be for 3 years because I go see them every 3 months as we continue to track my levels, okay? Consultation is free. It costs you nothing. It takes 20 to 30 minutes out of your day. And then if you decide to sign up, 50% off, which makes all of this stuff affordable. I use their testosterone therapy, and I utilize their peptides. Those are the 2 things I use. But they have semaglutide, tirzepatide, all the miracle weight loss stuff that your aunt is on when she shows up to Thanksgiving and it looks like she's been on some miracle diet. That's what they have. 50% off our good friends at Game Day Men's Health. All right. Good show today. We're going to talk some college football as we are about 44, 45 days away from kickoff for Utah football. The Big 12 right around the corner. SEC Media Days have been going on. Of course, a lot of the conversation with Greg Sankey and some of the other leaders in the SEC continues to be about the potential of the SEC breaking away from college football and doing their own thing. It'll be interesting to hear from the coaches throughout the course of the week. As I always talk about in college football, it's different from other sports with this dynamic. Like the celebrities are the coaches. It's bigger in college football than it is anywhere else on any level, quite frankly. There's a little bit of this with college basketball. And, of course, with players coming and going, now on a historic level, the coaches are the figureheads. The coaches are the people that we know and we identify with in college in a way that we just don't in the pros, with some exceptions. Of course, Jerry Sloan was the coach here for 20 years. Usually when you think of San Antonio, you're going to think of Greg Popovich. But, of course, you're going to think of John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Tim Duncan. You don't really identify coaches with teams in the pros more often than not, with some exceptions. Belichick was in New England forever. But in the SEC, it's even kind of exacerbated a little bit. Like Kirby Smart spoke today. You're going to hear from Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian. More often than not, these coaches become the figureheads of the program. Then they become the celebrities in the ecosystem, and what they're going to have to say about this dynamic of the SEC potentially breaking away from college football, I think is going to be fascinating. So Greg Sankey talked about the dynamic yesterday, and really, we talked about this with Bill yesterday. If you missed my interview with Bill, ESPN700sports.com, voice of the Utes. There's something about Greg Sankey and the leadership of the SEC that is starkly different than Big 12 media days and what we saw from Brett Yormark and some of the leadership in the Big 12. And let's make no mistake about this. What Greg Sankey is doing with the comments he made yesterday, he is applying pressure to this bill, this Protect College Sports Act bill, brought to the table by Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell, trying to reshape college sports. He's putting pressure on them to change some of the legislation because, as I discussed yesterday, and we'll bring in Kyle Bonnegar on this, what I have found interesting about this bill, now that it's been brought to the floor here, is what I perceive to be a very sincere effort by the federal government to actually protect the teams that aren't in the SEC and the Big Ten, to look out for the Big 12 and the ACC and the G6 schools and some of the smaller programs, to make sure they're not left behind. Because the reality of this is if the SEC and the Big Ten can convince Congress to change some of the language, then they're saying the quiet part out loud. And it's the part that we've all known about for a while, but they've pushed back on because they don't want to scare people about the potential of them leaving college football and forming their own league. The idea has always been the Big Ten and the SEC leaving the college football ecosystem and creating a NFL hybrid model, right? AFC, NFC, Big Ten, SEC. Do you rebrand or do you simply just keep? I would imagine they would keep it because of the brand equity in college sports. When you just say SEC, Big Ten has probably been the best conference now for quite some time with their national championship pedigree. But what the bill is doing essentially is capping these leagues at 18 or 19, and that would eliminate the Super League model that we've all talked about for years, that Kyle Whittingham has talked about for years, that most college football media members have talked about for years. But the danger there is they could still break away with 18, 19 teams in each conference. But the thing that sucks about that is if you cap it with that group and it's that small, they could still break away and do their own thing, but it would leave a lot of teams behind that would like to be sitting at that lunch table, namely maybe Utah and BYU. So as SEC Media Days rolls along this week in Tampa, I've been trying to kind of keep a pulse on the messaging down there to see what sort of pressure they are putting on the congressional leaders about this Protect College Sports Act bill to get the concessions they want in order to do the things that they want to do. Because as of now, because they're pushing back, it's obviously clear that they do have something in mind that they haven't talked about very much out loud, but they're kind of keeping it under this cloak, right, as they do down there. But it's interesting to consider because there is a direct tie to the future of the Big 12 and Utah and BYU based off of this bill and based off of what the SEC and the Big 10 want to do. We'll bring in Kyle Bonnegar to talk about this. It's been a little bit. He'll be our first guest right out of the gates. John Kimball, the president of Real Salt Lake, and then Big T, Thurl Bailey, live in studio later on. Busy Tuesday drive. Good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. All right, we got SEC Media Days going on down in Tampa. We were down in Frisco a couple weeks ago for Big 12 Media Days. We're about 44, 45 days out for kickoff for Utah football. RSL resumes the second half of their season tomorrow night, so the summer of soccer continues after the World Cup is behind us. Let's welcome in a good friend of the show. It has been too long. Kyle Bonagura from ESPN. What's up, man? How you been?
Good, Spence. How have you been?
Good, man. Did you attend any World Cup matches?
I did. I not as a member of the working press. I took my 6-year-old son to the U.S. Bosnia knockout game. It's right in my backyard, and it was a chance to kind of core memory build with him and experience life in the stands for a change.
Man, that's awesome. That's the good stuff there. And I'll tell you what, sometimes I kind of push back on, the World Cup will bring a tremendous amount of exposure to the game of soccer, and it's going to change it in America, in the United States. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I thought it was so cool. I did not, as you and I have talked about, I did not grow up a soccer guy, so it's been 22 years now that I've either worked in or covered the sport, so I feel like I've got a little bit of equity in the whole thing. It's probably my 5th World Cup cycle that I've consumed, and I don't know if it was because it was here. I don't know if it was because of our national team actually showing pretty well. I was hoping for a little bit more. I really enjoyed it. I was like wandering around my house Sunday night, like, so what do I do now that this thing is over? I thought it was great, man. Give me your thoughts on the entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I was completely caught up in it from day one. I mean, there was probably only 5 or 6 games that I didn't at least catch like 1 minute of live. I mean, working from home makes it a little bit easier to follow this stuff. I mean, it was just always on in my house. If we were home, that's where the TV was turned on to. So, the games were exciting. The U.S. was entertaining, right? We could maybe get into that a little bit, but like, there was so many cool storylines. I was really on the fence about the expansion of the tournament from 32 to 48. I thought like 32 fit into a nice little box there, two from every group advances. And, there's a threshold of kind of quality that a team needed to get to the tournament. And like, I always really liked the format before, but I thought the expanded tournament really worked. We didn't see, there was some blowouts, but I covered a game in Qatar that Spain beat Costa Rica 7-0. So there's always been some blowouts, but we got to see some really tiny nations hang with some of the best in the world, which kind of validated the expansion. And then there was just more games, right? There was that many more games to watch, which I'm not going to complain about having more World Cup games to watch. And, the added knockout round, again, like having, 16 more knockout round games to watch. Again, no complaints here. It does, like, the dynamics are different than it was before. That's just how math works, right? But like, I thought all of it really played out really well. Going, 3 different countries involved. I thought all 3 countries for the most part showed really well. And of course, there was moments where that wasn't the case, but that's just going to be the case, regardless of where it's held, right? And so, yeah, I thought overwhelming success, drawbacks for sure, but man, I had such a good time following this tournament for the last several weeks.
Yeah, well said. Let's dig into some national team stuff, and I've talked about it quite a bit, so I'll just kind of ask you your thoughts and lay out and give you the space. There's a 2-tiered kind of conversation that I've heard going on. And one side of it is, okay, it's the same old thing. We have all of this hype. We have all of this hope. The tournament approaches. Fox does their vignettes. We learn about all these players. And, okay, we have it on our home soil. We appear to have maybe the most talented roster we've ever had. And we win the group. And there's a manageable path. And then we run into Belgium and we lose. Now, as I've said a million times, like, Belgium's awesome. One of the funny things about the World Cup is once every 4 years, media voices decide to talk about the sport. It's like, you don't have to really say anything if you don't want to. Like, Belgium's very good, okay? And yes, they didn't play De Bruyne, and they brought in Doku and Lukaku off the bench. It's still a very good country. I was hoping we would win, but we didn't. And then ultimately it turns into a commentary on how we fix our youth system to potentially make this thing look different at some point. Did they meet your expectations? Did they kind of achieve what you thought they would, or were you hoping for a little bit more?
Going into it, and I think this was the same last World Cup too, I think to exceed expectations or to reach the level that you're kind of hoping the team does as an American, like it was always going to be the quarterfinals, right? That's the benchmark that really would say, hey, like there's tangible progress in terms of how far they went in the tournament. They've reached the round of 16 several times. I think that's always the expectation, that they should at least get to that round. And so like that was kind of the minimum, right? Okay, if they didn't reach the round of 16, it was a clear disappointment. I mean, there would have been no other way to kind of handicap it. If they advanced through the round of 16, I think obvious success, right? That would have been the goal for most people. And so for them to go out in the round of 16, yeah, it's more of the same. I think what shades it in a more negative fashion, of course, is just how they played in the game. It wasn't that they lost to Belgium. It was that they lost 4-1 to Belgium and were not really competitive at any point, which, that was how it was last time in Qatar. I was there when they played the Netherlands and didn't really belong on the same field in the round of 16. And that's how it was again. And that's with 4 years of growth with the core group of players, right? That's with the addition of Balogun, who, made his presence in that game a little bit controversial, of course, for all sorts of reasons. And so I think that they didn't play they didn't play well in that round, and that's your lasting impression from this team. And so that kind of leaves you with a sour taste in your mouth. But look, I mean, if you look at the tournament on balance, the Paraguay game was a lot of fun to watch. That's as exciting a brand of soccer this team has played in a meaningful game that I can remember. That first 45 minutes was, you could make a case that that's the best that the United States men's national team has ever played in a competitive match. There's a couple of other shouts that you can throw out, but it's certainly in the conversation, and I think for a lot of people right at the top. But after that, it was, they beat the team that they should have beat Australia. And they did. They rotate against Turkey, so you can't really have any takeaways from that. Bosnia is not near the level as the United States, and you win that. It was a decent performance. It wasn't some majestic display of skill that was going to awe anyone, but they showed some grit after Balogun got the red card to kind of close up shop, and then Ben Tillman's goal was a nice moment to have. And yeah, so I mean, as far as like overhauling the youth system, like I don't think wholesale changes are in store because of this performance. I think you kind of have to, there's a lot of challenges with the youth system in the United States. The sheer size and lack of professional clubs across the country is those things are tough to deal with. But I thought, look, if I was a kid in '94 when the World Cup came here, and the sport's in a much better place. The national team is, they went to the same round, but it's a much stronger team. The pool is deeper. They play better soccer. So, yeah, I mean, overall, very, very positive experience. But, of course, there's learning experiences that, you have to also, incorporate into the future.
One more U.S. men's national team question, then we'll get off of it. The Flo Balogun red, I'm sure you heard of that. I'm sure you were following the news cycle there, Kyle. Look, I didn't think it was a red. I was surprised to hear others disagree. Like Bruce Arena was adamant that it was. I didn't think that it was. And ultimately, I felt like it was probably the right decision to maybe get that thing overturned. But the way it all went down was really gross, right? I feel like those two lines of thought, I think, can line up. How did you digest that situation?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because I didn't think it was a red card. And so because I didn't think it was a red card, I feel like in the end, like justice was served, right? Like ultimately they landed on the correct outcome, but it took, the President Trump is involved, whatever his role was, right? The fact that that is now a talking point about whether the head of state of a host nation inserted himself in a way that it affected the competition. Like that's just not good for anyone. If the U.S. had won, that would have been a talking point. It's a talking point now that they lost and they played poorly with Balogun in the lineup. It's fair to wonder, and I tend to not think it played. I don't think it really played a real role. But like you kind of wonder, hey, that storyline affect preparation? Like, probably not, but it's fair to ask the question. It's fair to like Balogun kind of had some comments that seemed to indicate, that the team was kind of caught off guard by it, and maybe it did shake with some preparation. But look, it was a bad moment for everyone. Like, no one came out of that looking good, right? FIFA looks corrupt. The U.S. looks like it's meddling in a place it shouldn't have. And then, it doesn't end up having an impact on the game. So it was all for naught anyways.
All right, final World Cup question. We'll do a little college football with you, and we'll set you loose. Outside of Messi, Argentina's really hard to like. And for a tournament that was that great and entertaining and engaging, I thought the final was pretty subpar. I give the Spanish side a ton of credit with the way they controlled the entire thing. I mean, part of me feels like Argentina was really bad, and part of me feels like they had no way to be better because Spain was just that good. But then there's the dark arts of the game, right, as they talk about. And the way Argentina, I guess, prefers to play is to dive a lot and try to draw fouls and then try to bait you into the way they want you to play and maybe lose your temper. Well, they lost their temper. They get the red card. Then after the game, there are these videos of them like accosting the Spanish side. So your thoughts on Spain being deserving winners, and then Argentina really, I think, showed a poor side of the way they conduct themselves.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was a tough watch. Even for a soccer purist, it was a snoozer, right? I mean, Spain completely dominated the game, didn't create a lot of like great chances. The Argentinian goalkeeper, played really well, but it wasn't like he was making good saves. He wasn't Tim Howard against Belgium making saves that were kind of at the next level, if that makes sense. Deserving champions. They were good all tournament. They were good headed into the tournament. They were the pre-tournament betting favorite. Really likable team. It's cool. I mean, Lamine Yamal's a global superstar. He didn't really have a great tournament. I mean, he was pretty quiet for the most part coming off an injury. So the fact that he wasn't as impactful ultimately means that Spain won without a real true superstar, playing at a superstar level, I should say. And so that's kind of cool for the team aspect of the sport. So happy to see Spain win it. And as far as Argentina is concerned, you're coming off. They won the World Cup 4 years ago. You act like you've been there, right? Like lose with grace, especially on that stage. Like you guys got completely outplayed. And so to not have a shot on goal for, the first, 110 minutes a game, and then to behave like that after the game, just a complete disservice to the country, to represent the country that way. You kind of see Messi just looking at him like, what's going on, guys? Like he wanted no part of that, the post-game shenanigans. And it's look, when Lionel Messi is gone and retired, Argentina is going to be an easy team to root against, and they're probably already there for a lot of people.
All right, moving over to a little college football. Of course, we're still 6-7 weeks away. 6-7 weeks away. But it drives Porter crazy. That's why every time I do it, I have to point it out because it drives me crazy. But we were at Big 12 Media Days a couple weeks ago in Frisco. And Kyle, the best way, I keep using this line, there was just like this Regina George, mean girl, you can't sit with us energy during the entire thing. Like everyone hates Tech. Tech's mad at the league. Yormark gave this opening statement where he was like part preacher and part politician. There were some weird questions asked, and look, that's kind of the off the field weirdness that is permeating throughout the entire thing. Of course, there's the Brendan Sorsby story that dominated headlines. The Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General, threatened a lawsuit. Now there's reporting that the day before Cody Campbell donated like $275,000 to his Senate bid or whatever. It's a weird league, dude. It just is a weird league. It's a weird time. And of course, it's home for Utah and BYU. A lot of people believe BYU should be the favorite because of what's going on with Tech under center. But I just, from the outside looking in, just your thoughts on where we find ourselves with the landscape of the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a hard league to kind of figure out, right? Because the Tech thing overshadowed not just the Big 12 in the off season, but like all of college football, the Sorsby stuff. So that, it's first of all, I'm just unfortunate for everyone that's going on. It's Sorsby included, that he's kind of caught up in that. He's not blameless, but if there's a real addiction there, it seems like. So I mean, Texas Tech should have never I mean, I guess they were. Let me collect my thoughts for a second. So, like, I feel like they did what most schools would do, right, in defending their player, their quarterback, the person who they felt was the keys to making a national title run. I think, like, a lot of schools probably would have behaved in a similar fashion, like in terms of defending their, quote, student athlete, right? But it makes it – they were already hard to like for most people just because the influx of cash and how they're kind of buying their way to the top. Again, like, that's great for them, but for everyone else, it makes them an easy target. And then you throw this kind of this for sure scandal on top of it. There's going to be a bullseye for a while. This isn't something that you can cleanse your reputation of in a few weeks with the Sorsby not being around anymore. That's just going to be the deal. And whether they're favorites or not, I think probably they should be. Like, the money they dumped into that roster is still. It's still up there, and like we saw it last year, like BYU had a really good team last year, but there was a pretty big gap between them and Texas Tech just in the trenches, right? We just saw that at the point of attack, they just didn't belong on the same field for the most part. And so until there's reason to believe otherwise, I mean, I think Texas Tech deserves to be the favorite still. But again, like, the way college football is structured now, I mean, it was always hard to predict in the preseason, like, what a team was going to look like. But now with all the movement and all of it, it's, you kind of have to throw away a lot of that stuff and just kind of wait for week 3 to have a real sense of who looks like what.
Yeah, and, SEC Media Days going on this week, and Greg Sankey took the podium opening to open the thing, and they'll have coaches speak throughout the week. Kirby Smart today. We're going to hear from Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian. And, there's this storyline permeating throughout the ecosystem of college football about the Protect College Sports Act that's been brought to the floor by Congress and Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell. And clearly the SEC and the Big Ten pushing back on the language in this bill, because what I've been surprised about in this bill is it does actually feel like Congress and the federal government do care about protecting non-Big Ten and SEC institutions and programs. And they're not necessarily paving the way for this Super League. And the SEC, of course, is upset with that. And so is the Big Ten. And whenever Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti speak and they talk about their desire to have the language changed in the bill, it's kind of like they're saying the quiet part out loud that, yes, they do envision a day in college football where they're able to do their own thing away from what we're used to with the NCAA. So, you and I debate the future of this sport all the time. And we'll see if this bill actually is passed. There's a ton to do before it actually gets there. But have you changed your stance and your belief on what you think the future of this sport looks like since you and I last spoke?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's I don't know that I have. I mean, I also, first of all, like all of that notwithstanding, I just don't think Congress should be involved in college sports.
Yeah.
I think there's much more important things that lawmakers should be dealing with than the structure of the NCAA. So, that, let's set that to the side. Like, I do think that the NCAA on its own should try to get to a place to prevent a Super League, but at the same time, I don't know how you do it. I think it's going to continue to incrementally move in that direction. The money is too significant for it not to. I hope it doesn't, because I think that's bad for most consumers of the sport. But when you look at the schools at the top and like their value relative to others in the conference, yeah, I mean, I understand why they want to push for that. And so, I mean, I think I'm like kind of happy that Congress is, trying to put roadblocks in the way, even though I don't think that should be their place. So it's like a tough spot it's kind of like the red card thing. Like, I don't think Balogun should have got a red card, but like, I don't think that it should have been rescinded the way it was. Like, it's like, you can't really have it both ways, I suppose. But yeah, I'm also, it's just so hard to predict too with where this is going to turn, because I mean, it takes one or two wealthy donors to buy a politician to push for some sort of change, and it could be splitting off in a new direction at any point.
Kyle, appreciate the time, man. Have a great rest of the summer, and we'll bug you when college football is closer. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, man.
Kyle Bonagura covers college football and soccer for ESPN. At Bonagura ESPN is where you find him. Want to let you know that you can help Utah kids start school with confidence. Over 200 kids at the road home need your help with back-to-school clothes, shoes, backpacks, and more. Visit ESPN700sports.com or appletreeforkids.com for more information and to donate now. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. We'll catch a quick break. Coming up on the other side, for those of you that have been captivated by the World Cup and wondering where you can get your soccer fix, the summer of soccer continues. MLS has announced their endeavor, namely, Thank You World. We will take it from here. RSL is back in action tomorrow. We have some exciting stadium renovations coming up during the offseason to prepare for the calendar switch. And what will the summer window transfer hold? Well, we'll see some talent acquisitions for RSL to maybe raise a trophy for the first time in 17 years. The president of Real Salt Lake is John Kimball. He's our guest coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. Alrighty, we are back. Episode 19 of Reality Check with Spence Checketts. Reminder, we record this on Tuesdays, and it's televised on Friday nights on both KMYU and KJazz TV. Of course, we're streaming live on ESPN 700 and on YouTube. So there are several areas and ways you can find us. Audience has been growing. Want to say thank you very much to everybody who's making this show a part of your routine. And the summer of soccer continues. MLS has announced a kind of a marketing endeavor, namely, thank you, world, we'll take it from here. So if you're one of the millions of people that just consume this World Cup cycle, good news. You don't have to tap out of the game because RSL, Real Salt Lake, is back in action for the second half of the season. And the president of the club, John Kimball, is good enough to give us some time on the pod. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you as always. Thanks so much for the time. And I like to start with a little bit of background with all of my guests, because one of the goals I have for this podcast is to allow our community to get to know the people that run the ecosystem of sport in our market. I like to refer to you as the locals local, right? I mean, your history is deeply tied to this state with your ancestors, and you're kind of a lifelong Utah, and now you're running a soccer club, Johnny. So what do you want our audience to know about John Kimball, like your origin story and how you got into sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of just fell into it through the media world. Working with KSL was my first job on the radio side, and then went into the TV side. And then it was really Sports West and your dad that really got me going when he hired me to come work with him with the Mountain West and WAC coverage. It was a couple years into that he decided to buy an MLS team. And so I've been there for a long time, been there from the beginning, had an opportunity to work for Dave for a number of years. Then Deloy Hansen took over the club. At that point, I worked with Deloy for a couple of years and then got recruited to go to the Utah Jazz. And so had a great opportunity to work with the Millers at the Utah Jazz, ran the tour of Utah, ultimately became the president of the arena, and was there for a couple of more years and got a call to come back to help with Real Salt Lake. And so I've been back since then, and it's been fantastic. It's just blown by, though. It's crazy. Yeah. It's been like almost 6 years. So
yeah, and look, it's been 22 years since we brought the club here, right? So you snap your fingers, and as they say, time is a thief.
Yeah,
right. And you look around, and it's like, wait, holy smokes, it's been a long time. But look, let's dig into some of the things that are going on right now. I really want to capitalize on this moment because it feels substantial. It feels real. The last time the World Cup was played on American soil, it directly led to the creation and implementation of MLS, which is now 30 years old, and a real undeniable piece of real estate has been carved out. It's not going anywhere. In fact, the growth, I think, is probably going to be really exciting to watch. But, Sunday Night Football, NFL football, is the highest watched show in America. Not sports show, the highest watched TV show, and they average around 23, 24 million viewers. The World Cup final drew 46 million people, and America wasn't even in it. It was Argentina and Spain. The U.S. lost to Belgium in the knockout round, drew 33 million people. So the World Cup final nearly doubled Sunday Night Football, and a random knockout game featuring the U.S. men's national team outdrew it by 10 million eyes. Yeah. So ultimately, it's pretty undeniable that this World Cup cycle was consumed on a historic level. What sort of growth do you think MLS can expect to see from it?
I really think it's another tipping point. And I've mentioned this, and this is just my opinion. The tipping point originally in 94 was to get the league started. I think the tipping point now, and this is no offense to anybody, but I think the reality is to really get our best athletes to want to play this game. And I think that's the tipping point now. The 8-year-old kid who watched or experienced this World Cup, the kid who's built like Holland that's normally going to go play for the NFL because he looks like a tight end. They want to play soccer now. Yeah, they want to dominate. And my argument is, in a decade or so, if those athletes are playing at that level, that's when we really have a solid run at a World Cup.
Yeah. It's interesting to consider what it could look like because I do think, and there's a parent aspect to this as well. Like if you have a 7 and an 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid who is an excellent athlete and can probably do anything and excel in it, you're looking at the contracts that players sign in football and basketball and saying, well, if he's really that good, he can make 250, $300 million if he's a great basketball player or a great football player. And then in college, the NIL money is clearly in football and basketball as well. So as the league grows and children and their parents see the economic value of being a soccer player, in addition to maybe being inspired by what they just saw with the World Cup, then I think our best young athletes might be more inclined to try to play soccer. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's about the economics of the game.
Yeah, and that is the other tipping point, is just the economics. It's got to change. It will change. There's, owners and ownership groups that are investing in this sport. Just looking at our own ownership group with the Millers and with the Blitzer group, there's people that want to invest in this because they see it as the future of sport here. And to have it embraced the way it was through World Cup that's just the extra juice that it needed to get going.
During this cycle, you had an opportunity to attend a few matches, right?
Yes.
So take us in those stadiums for people that didn't have a chance to actually go to a match while it was here. What was the atmosphere like?
Yeah, I was able to go to the Paraguay-U.S. game in L.A. at SoFi Stadium. That building just on its own. I took my daughter to a Taylor Swift concert there, and it was unbelievable. But that atmosphere was unlike any sporting event I have ever witnessed.
Yeah.
By the end of the game, locked in arms with 20 people around me, we came up with our own chants. It was just something that I've never experienced before. And I think anybody who went to a game had that same feeling. I also went to Seattle to the Australia-US game. And the thing that impressed me there was just everybody standing, singing the national anthem, and just how powerful that was to witness. And again, just unlike anything I'd ever seen before.
Yeah.
So it was an amazing sporting experience.
Yeah. And, the World Cup itself is unlike anything that exists. The Olympics don't come close. I think that's probably the closest thing that we could be analogous with. And of course, in America, we have the Super Bowl, which is great, but it's one game. It's every year. And part of me wishes the World Cup was every summer, but the fact that it's every 4 years, I think adds to the intrigue. And, as you know, I didn't grow up a fan of soccer at all. Mm-hmm. I played when I was little, but I was on the orange team. And then when I was old enough, I played American football like most of us did. But I've been working in or covering the sport for 22 years now. And this is my 5th World Cup cycle that I've consumed. And I remember the first match I watched right after we brought RSL here, people were encouraging me, you need to watch the World Cup, because I never had before.
Yeah.
The first match I watched, the intro is playing. And they're playing the national anthem from the country, and they're panning across the players' faces, and they're screaming their national anthem, and tears are rolling down their face. And I went, what is this all about? I have a hard time even articulating it properly as far as what it feels like it means to people globally, but I want you to take a shot at it since you've been to some games now.
Yeah, I mean, kind of my similar story was watching that Netflix film on Pablo Escobar.
Sure, yeah. Two Escobars, yeah.
And just realizing what that meant to that country.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point that they would take that guy's life.
Right.
And it's a phenomenal story. And that was just it is life. It's like the guy on Ted Lasso says, soccer is life.
Right.
And to be the largest sport in the world that is dwarfs any other sport.
Mm-hmm.
It truly, and we saw it come here. We saw the Scots, we saw Norway, we saw everybody come and celebrate. And they taught us and showed us how to celebrate something like we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Like they took over Boston. I mean, it was just phenomenal. The streets of Seattle post game. It's just, again, it is life.
Yeah.
It's bigger than sport. It's close to religion. It's just literally right there. And this is, again, that tipping point that I think the United States is really starting to tap into, because there's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
I mean, there really isn't.
Yeah, the cultural element is really fascinating to me because you learn so many things about so many other countries just by watching a soccer tournament. And the Scots in Boston, where after 2 nights, they were just out of beer. Boston, the city, ran out of beer.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been to Boston, the city, they usually don't have a problem running out of beer. And the Scots basically drank them under the table in a couple of nights. a video of Lamine Yamal in a Walmart,
Yeah.
and he's looking around like, and no one recognizes him. He's this
Yeah.
global superstar. One more World Cup thought, then we'll do some RSL.
Sure.
The other thing that I really liked is there was a lot of nervous energy and hand-wringing about whether or not we were going to be able to pull this off in our country based off of a number of different things that we don't need to get into on this platform. But I thought the country showed well. I thought people from around the world came to America, and from my prism, they seem to enjoy their experience, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I have this kind of barometer of things. I ride road bikes, and when I go out on a road bike ride, most other road bikers will never acknowledge you because they're way too cool and they're wearing their little stretchy pants and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I went out the day after the U.S. team had won. Every single person waved at me.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I wave, and they wave back.
Yeah.
Now it's gone back. The humanity is left because I rode on Saturday and nobody waved to me. So, but it just literally created something that, there's been terrible things that have happened that have brought us together. This was something that was the beautiful game that brought us together. And you saw it across every city. You saw it with all the people that were coming here. There was just pure joy, and people were excited, and they were having, the time of their lives. And you saw all the memes of people saying, oh, I thought somebody said I'd get shot when I came to America, and just going on at just how amazing this country is and how we did step up. And this is, again, the level that they're going to measure World Cups against.
Yeah, hopefully we can, with the way we just showed FIFA how we can do this, hopefully it's not another 30, 40 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get it back in 2038. People are already talking about that, which would be awesome. But as I continue to say on my daily show, ESPN 700, every day 2 to 6, The Drive with Spence Checketts, the summer of soccer continues.
Yeah.
So as MLS has outlined this really cool new marketing initiative, using Can I Kick It from Tribe Called Quest, which I've been using on my show for my RSL coverage for 8 years.
That's true.
Thank you, world.
Yeah.
We've got it from here.
Yeah.
What should fans know about the new soccer fans that are missing the World Cup? Why is RSL the place to be for them?
We had over 90,000 people come out to our watch parties.
That's so cool.
And we have thousands of new unique accounts that came out because we made everybody register. It was free to the public, but we wanted to capture data so that we could send information out. The Hispanic community showed up like nothing I've ever seen before. And so again, massive tipping point. We played Burnley last week. We had a fantastic showing against a team that has been in the EPL. We've got a good team. Yeah. And so there is great soccer being played. And so the momentum that the World Cup brought us to now continues with Real Salt Lake and the Royals. Where both our teams are sitting in the top 5. We're very competitive. We want to win trophies this year. That is our commitment, is we want to win trophies this year.
Yeah.
And our ownership, the Miller Group, has stepped up. The support, the financing, everything that they're doing, they're saying and doing everything that they said they would do. Jason has a number of new employees on the team side to make sure our teams are healthy. The investment that's going to happen in the building with our renovation that's going to start soon. It's just literally we are taking it from here.
Yeah.
And we've got the caliber of play here in Utah to support that.
Yeah.
So when people come out, they're going to be entertained. They're going to watch the beautiful game. You see players like Gozo, born and raised here. We can be certainly proud of that. He is a world-class athlete.
Yeah.
We have a number of world-class athletes that are playing on our team, on both the men and women's teams. And that's what people want to see.
Yeah, for sure. So again, we're recording this Tuesday night. So RSL resumes the season tomorrow. By the time you see this on TV on Friday, the match will be over. But it's a big one. It's LAFC, and you can see it on FS1. It's also on Apple Television, but FS1 will have the broadcast. So the second half of the season for RSL is going to get going here. 4th in the West, but 2 games in hand on LA. And you referenced Gozo is interesting. Steve Starks was my guest last week. And Steve has a basketball background like I do. So it was kind of nice to hear him echo my sentiment, which is always like, hey, we are developing these young players and they're still so young. I don't want to move them. I get it. Yeah. If you can make some money and if there's a number out there that makes sense, you do it. It's just different than the basketball background where you draft, develop, you want to retain. But Steve was talking last week, Johnny, in a very additive way.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is Gozo's not going anywhere. I don't know that, but my guess is Diego Luna is not going anywhere. Who knows? Maybe a designated player is added to the group, but it's been 17 years since we lifted a trophy. And this to me feels like for the first time, I mean, we've made the playoffs for, I think, 5 straight years. We're not advancing.
Yes.
But this is the first time, and there's some really good teams out west. This is the first time I look at this group and I think, you know what? We got a shot to do something.
We can do something this year, and we've got the players that will get us there. And again, the Millers' commitment is to being a championship team and a championship organization. And so they want to do everything, especially focusing on what we can control and what we can do right now.
Mm-hmm.
We want to win now.
Yeah.
And so there is a commitment, I believe, for us to look at additional players and to bring in additional opportunities to help us be that much stronger. But they're committed, and they want to win now. Now, to your point, soccer's very different. You look at Messi's path, you look at Beckham's path and where they went and the academies that they went through. And the natural path for some of these athletes is to move on and potentially go to Europe. And we want that for them too. But it's going to be all based on the right time.
Mm-hmm.
When's the right time for us when's the right time for our team to do that? When's the right time for the player to go? There's been talk, of Gozo going. It hasn't been the right time yet.
Yeah.
And so, while I'm in those conversations, what I see continually is the commitment to win and to do things right by the team and by the player.
Yeah.
And that's, that creates a championship culture.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, back to the economics of the thing, the reality is player, as you pointed out, Gozo is a world-class athlete. He's not just a good soccer player. He's a world-class potential EPL Premiership, hopefully future U.S. men's national team star. And to maximize your earning potential in this sport right now, you do go to Europe. And it's backwards in basketball, where if you can't make the NBA, then you go over to Spain or Germany or whatever. In America, if you're too good for soccer here, you do go overseas because that's where you can make the most money. So it does come back down to the economics of the thing.
Yeah.
And Pablo joined the show this week and basically said there's no reason why the United States can't be the EPL. There's no reason why we can't figure out the economics where Erling Haaland at this age couldn't get some amazing offer to come over here instead of continue to play in London. But that's where you make the most money. So it goes back to the economics of the thing. If Gozo thought he could make, I don't know, 15, 20, $25 million a year here, he would stay. But if he has that potential, then you do have to give him that opportunity to go at some point. I get it.
Yeah. And we're on the front end of that. And David Beckham was the one that started it. And arguably we have the very best player on the planet Earth playing in our league now because of the economics that they put in place to make that happen. They're going to do that again. They're going to consistently do it. They're going to get those players when they're younger. And again, within a decade or so, a player like Gozo may say, no, I want to stay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those players want to come to the U.S. just because it is the U.S. and the experience and the way that they can raise their families, et cetera, et cetera. It's very compelling to them.
Yeah.
But for right now, that's where it's at, just like the NBA and basketball. The reality is that's where some of those players want to go to hone their skills. But ultimately, I think that's exactly where we're headed.
So in addition to the Millers' commitment to RSL, the Millers have always been very committed to our community. It's very important to Gail. I'm sure it was very important to Larry, but he was working so hard. I think he left it to other people. But Gail is always, because I worked for the Millers for almost 8 years, and their Day of Giving, something they do every single year. And it's going on right now to kind of help this youth sports initiatives. Can you fill us in on this?
Yeah, I mean, the Millers are amazing in the sense that they want to give back to the community. They want to give back to youth sports. And so they've created a fund that will match people. A lot of people will come and ask for support. There's literally now a fund for youth sports that will help young teams, young athletes get funded. And the Millers have set this up, and it's just an amazing program that we want everybody to understand. It's a match. So when they make that commitment, they'll match the money. There's a lot more information on it, but just keep your eyes open for the Day of Giving and the Millers giving back to youth sports.
Yeah, search on the internet, Miller Sports Entertainment Day of Giving. Your donation will be matched by the Millers. So it's a very generous thing that they have going on. You had referenced some upcoming renovations to the stadium, and we're going to see a calendar switch in MLS. I was a little skeptical initially, but I actually, now that I understand it, I think it's the absolute right move for the league. Last year, we would not have needed any renovations because we did not have a winter. It was kind of odd, but we do live in the Rockies where more often than not, we may have some cold weather matches. What are you guys doing to the stadium just to create some good contingencies in the case that you need some weather games to be taken care of?
Yeah, and the reality is your dad built a beautiful building. It has amazing bones to it and structure, and so the remodel is really focused on giving our season ticket holders and our fans the value that they've been paying for. We're now producing it on the field. Now we want to give back in the building. We're looking at new seats. We're looking at new premium areas. We're looking at new LED boards and jumbotrons to just enhance that experience. And because it was built so well, we don't have to tear it down and rebuild. It's really just kind of focusing on those areas that we know are really meaningful to the fans.
Yeah.
As far as, mitigating the heat and the cold, we're hardy people. We go to U of U games and BYU games and we wear Gore-Tex.
Yep.
So the reality is what the league has told us is that 92% of our games will be exactly the same. So it's not going to change that dramatically. And to your point, with the weather being the way it is, I don't think we have really much to worry about when it comes to the weather.
Did you say 92% of the schedule is going to be basically the same?
Exactly. We may have one game in late November. We may have one game earlier in February, but they want to take care of the 6, what they're calling northern teams.
Mm-hmm.
So schedule wise, they'll help us when, it's 30 degrees or 20 degrees.
Okay.
So
we got 11 games in the next 44 days. We got Leagues Cup. We have MLS. The chase is on. So as we're kind of wrapping this thing up, again, as I said to intro the show, this feels like a very seminal moment for the sport. I'm always skeptical. I always kind of push back on the people that are like, hey, the World Cup's going to come here and suddenly it's going to be this huge thing. But you can feel it when it's a little bit different. So for all of our listeners out there that are captivated because of this World Cup experience, how can they continue the summer of soccer? What's the best thing?
So we have the Leagues Cup coming up starting August 4th. We'll play 3 Hispanic teams. It's a tournament style happening within the league regular season. So that's really exciting. Our Hispanic community has stepped up and they're awesome. And so we're going back to them. They love that we bring in these teams.
The CBS affiliate here in the market, our friends at Sinclair. You can find that wherever you get your shows. It is called Reality Check with Spence Checketts. I believe John was our, 19th episode. So they're all up there if you want to check out what we've done so far. It's been a lot of fun. It's a cool little studio they have going on over there. And so just a reminder, the timing of this stuff can be a little bit interesting. We record it on Tuesdays, as we did today. It is released on the podcast platform on Wednesdays. So it will come out on the podcast form coming up tomorrow. And then we televise it on Friday nights on both KMYU and KJazz TV. So it's streaming live on YouTube. And obviously, we bring it over here to ESPN 700 Sports as well. Steve Starks joined us last week, the CEO of the LHM company. The week before that, it was Mark Harlan and Matt Webb. Mark, of course, the AD at Utah. And Matt Webb is the new CEO, of Crimson Brand Partners, the new company created by Utah Athletics in conjunction with Otro Capital. Matt is the new CEO. So if you're looking to get to know Matt Webb, that's also up there. The week before that, it was Ryan Smith and Austin Ainge after they had drafted Darren Peterson. Kyle Beckerman has joined us. Of course, Morgan Scally was our first guest. Alex Jensen has been on the podcast. Pablo's been on the show. So a lot of stuff over there. If you're looking for some good local stuff, Nick Olachek stopped by to talk to some Mammoth. We try to cover pretty much everything, whether it's the Jazz or the Utes, BYU, RSL, or the Mammoth. So it is called Reality Check with Spence Checketts. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts. And appreciate John Kimball stopping by today. Thurl Bailey is going to be live in studio for an entire hour starting at 4 o'clock today. Always appreciate Thurl's time. We'll do some Jazz basketball, some NBA offseason, and just kind of chop it up with Big T. He's the man. We'll see what he has going on outside of his broadcasting career. He's always got something, man. Thurl's a busy guy. So that will come your way in just about 30-ish minutes from right now. So we got a busy show Tuesday afternoon. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor are coming to a big screen near you. The end of Oak Street, August 14th. We want to send you early. Tune into the OC show at noon this week for your chance to win 4 tickets to an advanced screening on August the 10th. More details can be found at ESPN700sports.com. When was the last time you went to a movie in a movie theater?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. It might have been 1917. That
you weren't alive in 1917.
The movie.
Oh, to see the movie 1917.
Mm-hmm. Which was good.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. I went to like a premiere of some like Sundance thing because I was in the background of it, but I don't think that doesn't count.
Wait, was that when you tried out for Yellowstone?
No, but similar. I was riding a horse.
Do you have a side hustle as an actor you haven't told me about?
No, not intentionally, but I have been in a few shorts and such.
So you get spotted riding a horse, and they're like, "That dude needs to be in our movie."
More just personal connections that do films and ask me whatnot.
Do you call them films?
Oh yeah,
I do.
If I'm in them.
If you're in them, they're a film for sure. I was actually thinking about this. I used to go to the movie theater with friends every week.
Yeah.
It was like a Sunday night thing we did
Same.
back in the day. And I don't know if it's the COVID thing. Maybe everything's available streaming at home. I cannot remember the last time I went to a movie theater. And I used to do it all the time. It's one of those things where I'm like, I really miss doing that. And yet I don't do it. There's no excuse. It's not that hard to do. They do still exist. I mean, movie theaters are still around. But it's the comfort of your own home. And for me, it's more the fact like something really has to motivate you to go to the theater. And if you know that it's coming to HBO Max or whatever in like 2 weeks, you're like, I'll just wait. You know, I wonder what I have no data on this, but I wonder what the business of the movie theater current ecosystem is like right now. How many people are still going to movie theater?
It's definitely gone down. And as you mentioned, COVID kind of expedited that. The advent of Redbox was a thing.
Redbox.
I remember when Netflix sent you movies, right? They sent you the DVDs. That all definitely contributes to it. But yeah, the COVID thing, I think when people stopped going to movies and started watching everything instant, right, on their televisions, it really kind of killed it. I think there's probably still like a healthy amount of people that do it I still see theaters that are operating and around, but it's definitely gone down. And yeah, the 1917 was in 2019. So
2019.
I think that is the last time I went out to a movie. Now that's the other thing. If the movie is something I want to see enough, I have no problem doing it.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that itch from a trailer or from a movie apparently in 7 years. So maybe movies aren't as good anymore, or we ran out of topics to do good movies about. I don't know.
The Odyssey.
Right.
That movie's out right now. A lot of people talking about that.
When Nolan makes a movie, I'm sure it gets a lot of people to go to theaters. And I actually did have some friends ask if I was interested in that. So hey, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll go see a movie for the first time in a theater since 2019.
Yeah, it's weird. Like there was a time where I could watch the Oscars and be like, I've seen the majority of these films. And now I'll turn on the Oscars. I'm like, I think I've seen maybe one. And then after maybe watching the Oscars, it'll motivate me to go find a movie I haven't seen. I used to really watch a lot of movies, and now it's more like shows as opposed to movies. I was looking for something to watch the other night, and I just ended up firing up Larry David's new show on HBO.
You mentioned that. I found a movie that Larry David did in 2013 that I'd never seen.
Okay.
Clear History.
Oh, yeah.
Went back and watched that rather than going out to a movie. So yeah, there's something to kind of all of what you mentioned. The ease of access that we have to films now, and of course, as you said, I think it's got to motivate you, right? So maybe it's incumbent upon the directors to start making good movies again.
Have you heard anything about the Odyssey? I feel like there are a lot of angry people online.
Oh, really? I've only seen people saying like it lived up to it.
Oh, okay.
I think the angry people online are because what's her name? What's his name?
Matt Damon?
No.
Oh, Juno, who's now a man.
Yes.
Yes, the angry people online feel like Christopher Nolan is now woke.
Right.
Because
Which
of course.
I couldn't care less.
Because of course. We've talked about that term before. JP texted me last night. He said that I remind him of Odysseus, a hero who's also very flawed. I feel like he was bullying me. See, the thing about getting mad about this movie, you realize none of these people are real. Like this is a fictional. This is it's mythology. Like none of the So whenever I hear like, whoa, there's a black lady playing this character, I'm like, it's not a real person. You can't go back in history and be like, she was white. No, she didn't exist.
For like a Spider-Man or something.
It's so odd to me.
That's pretty silly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'll head out and see a movie. I've not gone to a movie theater in a long, long time.
The Green Lantern is gay? No way.
No, the Green Lantern is not a real thing. The things people choose to waste their energy on is wild to me. All right. What do you make of this? Did not used to be a thing. What do you make of media members reporting on the job status of other media members?
Weird.
I think it feels kind of gross.
Yeah, and I mentioned it when we touched on it at the beginning of the show. We're in a click economy, right? So if you find something that people are interested in and will share and spread, then you're going to report on it. Especially if you work for an outlet who pays you based upon that, right? So I don't like it. I think it's weird. But if you don't want people reporting on your layoffs, I would probably go about it in a way that information doesn't become public before you alert the people involved. Kind of an easy way to get around that. I mean, folks are going to talk about it, especially if you're a big name, say Jay Billis. People are going to talk about it. So to make it like less of a story, I would go about it in a different way. Of course, we're talking about the ESPN stuff over the last couple of days. Yeah, if you missed it, the wildest part, and there's more details coming out. So Ryan Clark, who spent 13 years in the NFL and was a very, very good player, won a Super Bowl with the Steelers, buddies with our guy Stevenson Sylvester. And it was the weirdest thing because I was at home doing show prep, and I'm kind of flipping around some of the channels, and Ryan's on Sports Center, and then he was on Get Up. I think he was on First Take, and then he was doing his NFL Live segment. And as I was watching him on NFL Live, I get an alert on my phone from The Athletic that Ryan Clark had been laid off. And I'm watching him on television, and I'm like, what's going on? Apparently, after doing one of his segments, he was informed that he was no longer employed at ESPN. Now, ESPN, through certain outlets, they're starting to kind of get their side of the story out. And what they're saying is they did it that way in order for him not to, because we all do the thing. Like you go to break and then you pull up your phone and you're pulling up social media. You're looking at the latest news. Their spin at this point, and maybe it's real, I don't know, that they told him as soon as he was done with the segment so he didn't pull up his phone and see the news. Because he would have pulled up his phone and and have seen the news, because I was seeing the news while I was watching him on television. So that's kind of this dynamic that's going on out there. Cam Newton has also been let go. I don't know that he added much of anything, quite frankly, at all. David Lloyd, who had been there forever, mostly a Sports Center anchor, has been let go. Carl Ravitch, who's been there since like 1993, mostly on the baseball stuff. He did some Sports Center as well. He has been let go. Stefania Bell, who was like their injury. Didn't we have Stefania Bell on this show a couple of times? Mm-hmm. That's right. She did the Alex Smith doc.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right. Yeah, she's very nice. She has been let go. Bart Scott, who was a great linebacker for the Jets and others, let go. Charles Davis was let go. Charles Davis is really, really good at his job. That was kind of surprising. So, yeah, it's this new kind of interesting job in media where you're reporting on the job status of other media members. This apparently is as a result of ESPN and the NFL Network merger. I believe the NFL now owns 10% of ESPN as a result of that partnership. Last year, the Van Gundy stuff continues. First of all, it really irritates me. Now Jeff is coaching in the NBA again. It's something he always wanted to do. But their walking line concerning the decision-making process to fire Jeff is they were afraid he was going to go take a coaching job. So then they hired J.J. Redick, who took a coaching job with the Lakers. And they hired Doc Rivers, who took a coaching job with the Bucks. So obviously that didn't work out very well. Keyshawn Johnson, Jalen Rose let go last year as well. And I guess this is just the beginning because there are some other people that are tweeting out that they have been let go. And I'm not familiar with a lot of them. And this does come down, I think without really digging into it and knowing exactly where ESPN is at with this, Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, I think those two contracts are combined for over $100 million per year. And so therefore, some of these layoffs are probably as a result of, the NFL coming in and looking at the landscape and understanding that you're spending that much on talent for only two people and then having to find ways to cut corners in other places. I was thinking about this through the prism because we were talking about Victor Wembanyama leaving some money on the table for the Spurs to be able to go out and sign players the way Jalen Brunson did. Now, Wembanyama still signed like a $253 million contract. I think he left like 50 or 60 on the table. If you're a media member working for a company, are you willing to give up some of your money so your coworkers can stay employed? Because if it does have to do with simply Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith specifically, those two making the money that they're making as to why ESPN decided to lay off all these other people, be interesting to see whether or not, that's a thought process that either of those two would have. But just kind of a weird deal. It didn't used to be a thing where there were other media outlets reporting on layoffs in other companies and the way ESPN elected to go about their business here to try to inform Ryan Clark before he saw it on social media. And the reports are a lot of these other people actually did see the news on social media before ESPN was able to kind of get the information to them. And this is kind of how it goes now. I think, if I remember correctly, even way back, I believe Darren Williams found out he was traded via a social media post, and that was way back in the day. So it's not like a new dynamic, but it's hard to control the messaging when clearly ESPN has people at the company that are leaking this information to Andrew Marchand and The Athletic and others. And the speed at which information is shared, because Marchand will get it, and he knows that it's his job to report on this stuff. So suddenly he goes with it online, and then boom, somebody at ESPN sees it. They're texting their friend. They're sending a screenshot like, are you aware that you're no longer employed? It's a different ecosystem than it used to be. And I guess it's just kind of the sign of the times is how it goes. All right, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. We had Kyle Bonagura on the show earlier today. Kyle does a really good job covering college football. Covers some soccer. We did some World Cup with Kyle as well. But ultimately, with SEC Media Days going on right now, Big 12 Media Days a few weeks ago in Frisco, I'll remind you that as we are just about, 7 weeks away-ish from kickoff for Utah football, if you are looking for college football sound and that's what you want only, we've got a ton up on ESPN700sports.com right now. I believe we did about 80 interviews over the course of 2 days at Big 12 Media Days. And so it's the SEC's turn this week. And the main topic of conversation continues to be what the SEC would like to see in the Protect College Sports Act as it kind of makes its way through Congress. I continue to be somewhat skeptical that this thing is ever going to get passed, but it's made it further than a lot of people thought it was ever going to make it anyway. And whenever, as I've talked about here for a long time, it's one of the reasons why when the Pac-12 just crumbled right before our eyes, you could kind of see the future of what was going on here. Certainly when the Pac-12 lost Los Angeles, it felt like it was untenable. And with, USC and UCLA, and then, of course, UW and Oregon electing to find very safe landing spots, it did create a little bit of a fever pitch and a little bit of a panic around here. And Utah was able to find a safe spot in the Big 12 for now. And I'm not one that believes the Big 12 is in imminent danger, but there is a big part of me that does believe if you are not in the SEC and if you're not in the Big 10, there is a little bit of nervous energy about what's next for you. And it is why, even though, I feel like every time we have a national college football reporter on the show, and we caught up with a couple like Nicole Auerbach and others down at Big 12 Media Days, I know there are a lot of people at the University of Utah that A, are very hopeful, and some B, very confident that the Big Ten does appear to be a landing spot for the Utes. I can't corroborate that. I have no idea, and that would certainly be my preference. I mean, obviously, if you're in one of those two conferences, you don't have sleepless nights. You really don't. It's a safe spot for you. But whenever we talk to any of these national college voices, they don't seem to believe that any sort of conversation is taking place with Utah or BYU heading to the Big Ten. And some of the online reports, it's just hard to know whether or not these are credible voices, but it seems like every single day there's another story, blog post, podcast recorded, and maybe it is just people looking for engagement, but about maybe BYU landing in the Big Ten or Utah landing in the Big Ten. Texas Tech, of course, continuously linked to the SEC. That's where they would like to land at some point. And if you're able to make that happen, then, yeah, you definitely don't have the unknown nature of college football to keep you up at night. Because no matter what, the Big 12 will survive. The Pac-12 technically survived. It just looks a lot different. And if Congress is able to pass this thing, and they do cap the number of member institutions at 19, it makes very few spots available for teams that are in the Big 12 ecosystem to land in the Big 10 or the SEC, even though that would be the preference, that would be the hope. But if we play the hypothetical game, and let's just kind of lean in a local angle here to manifest good things for our local teams, that BYU and Utah are able to end up getting some sort of invite, and with whatever the future of college football looks like, if it is a breakaway, as Greg Sankey not so gently alluded to during his media yesterday, and we surmise that BYU and Utah are part of that group moving forward, and we'll put Texas Tech in there as well, it does leave some other intriguing options. TCU would be in the SEC footprint down in Texas. You look at some of the other potential options there. I mean, Kansas, of course, in basketball is amazing. They just got a massive donation of like $300 million plus. But all the reports that I've seen really are involving Utah, BYU, and Texas Tech, who are the three best football programs in this conference. Are they the three best teams this year? Part of me feels like the answer to that is yes. A lot of conversation about Arizona, a lot of conversation about Houston. We're able to catch up with coaches from both those teams during Big 12 Media Days and players too. So the Big 12 would be left to survive. What sort of deal, TV deal, is out there once this stuff kind of hits the open market again? Because it does have a little bit of a feel of what happened with the Pac-12, where Brett Yormark, to his credit, and I still hesitate to believe this was actually intentional from Brett Yormark. I feel like it was more fortunate and opportunistic than it was like an intentional move. But what he ultimately was able to do is grab the last deal on the market, grab the last live TV rights deal on the market for college football, and that's what led to the Pac-12 crumbling losing Oregon, losing UW, losing Los Angeles, the second biggest media market in the country. I mean, having the LA footprint was a massive deal for the Pac-12. And it's still so insane to me that there is not a home for West Coast football the way I feel like there should be a home for West Coast football. Still, the traveling dynamic, I mean, just the schematics and the logistics that athletic departments have to traverse now to get their teams to travel to the footprint they need to travel to play all of these sports. I feel like it's settled a little bit, but it's still wild that you're traveling two time zones to play a softball game. I never thought we would be in that reality. So, again, just like the Pac-12 has survived, it just has survived and it looks much different. And I do not want to be disrespectful to any of the teams in the Pac-12. But once upon a time, it was Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, Utah, etc. And now it's Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Oregon State, San Diego State, Texas State, Utah State, and Washington State. Okay, they've rebranded into this state school type conference. There's some Gonzaga talk out there because they're awesome at basketball. I'm not sure how that would look. And leaving the Mountain West now to look different as all this shuffling has taken place with Air Force and Hawaii and Nevada and New Mexico. North Dakota State is in the Mountain West. Northern Illinois is in the Mountain West Conference. San Jose State, UNLV, UTEP, and Wyoming. So, the Big 12, if we play the hypothetical as this bill kind of works its way through the federal government, that the three teams we think would be the most likely teams to land in a soft spot with the Big Ten and the SEC would be BYU, Utah, and Texas Tech. It still leaves you with Arizona State and Arizona and Baylor and Cincinnati and Colorado and Houston and Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, UCF, and West Virginia. But then would the Big 12 look at some of the other conferences to try to poach some of the better products in the quote-unquote Pac-12 for the Mountain West Conference? And then we do have to talk about the ACC, because if there are only if the bill passes through Congress and then makes it through the Senate and it's voted and it becomes real, it leaves maybe 4 or 5 spots at the table if the Big Ten and the SEC do want to break away. And let me be clear, I feel like they very much do want to do that. I feel like Greg Sankey essentially told us that without saying it out loud. But when you look at the ACC, Clemson, Duke is better in football than they ever have been, and obviously it's an unbelievable basketball program. There's Clemson, there's Florida State, there's Duke, there's Miami, there's North Carolina, SMU. Okay, so there's some interesting options in the ACC as well. So Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina. There's 5. Texas Tech, Utah, BYU, 3 out of the Big 12. Those, to me, are the 8 teams that could be left fighting for what are 4 or 5 spots available to join this breakaway situation if it actually goes down. So it's clear why the Big Ten and the SEC are pushing back on this bill, because they don't want to have the cap set at 18 or 19. And it's clear why they're trying to set the cap at 18 or 19, because Congress actually is trying to protect the Big 12, the ACC, G6, all the other schools. This is going to be a fascinating chess match to watch this thing unfold. How it's going to end, I have no idea. But as SEC Media Days rolls on down in Tampa this week, I think it's going to be interesting to continue to follow the messaging out of the voices that run. Still, maybe not the best, but probably the most powerful conference in all of college football. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Big T, Thurl Bailey, live in studio, entire 4 o'clock hour. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Big T, jazz legend, on the broadcast, live in studio. What's up, T? How are you?
I'm doing good, Spence, man. It's good to see you. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. It has been a minute. Mostly, I just want to talk about your golf game, quite frankly, because I just found out you got into the game of golf.
You know, if this were maybe 3-4 years ago, you wouldn't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it has become an obsession, a passion, not just for me, but for our family. And for me, part of the blame goes to Ron Boone.
Sure.
Because he taught me how to be better.
Okay. Yeah.
And whenever I get invited to an event now, I'll call him up. Sometimes I have to pay him to come.
Uh-huh.
You know, that's Ron.
Sure.
No, but he's been a great teacher, and I picked up some things. I got a competitive family, so
yeah.
my wife's the best of all of us.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
Cindy can play.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I golfed with Booner, I think 2 summers ago. 6 holes in one. He's had 6 holes in one. And I asked, we were at Bonneville on a par 3, and I said, are you going to jar it? He said, my goal is to never get another hole in one unless I'm winning a car the next time.
That sounds like Booner.
Yeah. So what's your strength in your game right now, and what do you have to work on?
You know, my strength really has become my drive right off the tee, and I'm putting pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've kind of figured out my wedges. I have to bend a little bit lower because I have this tendency when I come through to stand up a bit.
Yeah.
Because tall people just kind of have that instinct. Won't want to be up here.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'm kind of getting rid of that, trying to stay down and keep my head over the ball, and so it's off and on. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't.
Sure.
It's not habitual yet.
Yeah.
So I'm still working on it.
Well, since you're new to it, it's going to take a minute. I mean, even Michael Jordan himself says this is the hardest game on the planet.
It is.
You know, it's hard to get good.
It's humbling, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it takes time. Is there any sort of parallel between learning to shoot a jump shot and learning to swing a 3-wood? Is there any similarities?
Yeah, I think there's some parallels, of course. You know, a lot of sports do have it. When I look at golf and I look at basketball, 2 of my favorite sports, if you're trying to be a great shooter, we have this golf saying now in basketball, he's going into his bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's choosing that club that he needs at that point in the game.
Right.
And so I think there are a lot of similarities there where you've got so many great players today, especially at the highest level, who are so equipped with certain things.
Yeah.
And in order to be able to do that, you've got to learn the fundamentals first.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You've got to learn how to swing properly before you want to put some backspin on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, fundamentals are something that will never change. And then as you get better, you can kind of put your own personality in it. You can learn how to drive a little further, you know, chip that shot up, you know, a little closer, the roll towards the hole. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of parallels. And you're playing quite a bit.
Yeah, for me, it was COVID. COVID got me into it because for a while, it was like the only thing you could do to see your friends. Because we're outside, social distanced, right? Yeah. And most of us are kind of trapped inside. Like, I got to get out of the house.
You're not playing in masks, are you?
No, we weren't. We weren't playing in masks. But it was like, okay, we can actually go do this together.
Yeah.
And everyone was looking for an excuse to get out of the house because we were going crazy. And growing up, I mean, I was never a pro like you, but I was a basketball player. Mm-hmm. And my grandpa was a big golfer. And he badly wanted me to get into it, but I was bored. I thought it was boring. I'm like, I want to go play basketball or football. There's nothing exciting about this. It's not interesting to me. And then when it hooked me, I'm like, it's the most interesting game I've ever played.
Crazy, isn't it?
Because of how many layers there are to just the fundamentals of a swing. And when I first started playing, it was as simple as put ball on ground and hit ball. And now it's like, get your hip back. I'm doing this with my shoulder. Keep your elbow in, left arm straight. When do I start my transition? I'm coming in too steep. How do I shout? Like, and the more you learn, the more you realize the more that you have to learn, right? Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think another part, too, is that the thing that brings you back is the challenge, right? Yeah, you might have some good moments.
Yeah.
You know, I think you'll probably pass the point where you're starting to get consistent, but there are some days I go out there and I leave so frustrated.
Oh yeah.
But I want to get back
Mhm.
quickly.
Yeah.
And that's what it does. And I think the best part about golf for me is it's a family affair now.
Mm-hmm.
We all love it.
That's good.
We just got back from Hawaii. I'm with my sons playing over there, my family. So it's a game that you can play as old as Ron Boone.
That's true. And with the knee issues that Booner has, he still can get out there and swing a golf club.
Oh, he's got a couple new ones, I know.
Oh, good.
But he's in great shape.
Good.
I mean, when we go on the road, we keep each other in check and make sure we get in the weight room.
Good.
Sometimes we meet each other there.
I like that. That's great. Does Bowler swing a club?
I think he said he used to.
Okay.
And then he started to have some old football injuries pop up.
Ah, okay.
So he's rebuilding himself too. And
I see.
Hopefully he'll get back to it.
I see. It feels like, because Ryan's a big golfer. Ryan Smith, big golfer. Good player, too, by the way.
right.
Like, really good player. Danny plays a lot. I think Austin plays a lot. Will likes to play. It feels like golf is like part of like jazz culture now in a way.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it's becoming that for a lot of guys in the NBA.
Okay.
I know Jordan Clarkson hadn't played really 2 or 3 years ago. Now he has a golf tournament.
Oh, okay.
So it's grabbed him. His dad texts me, about coming out and playing. So there are a lot of guys getting into it because I think there's something about that challenge and that focus that they enjoy and that moment that they have that says, oh, man, I can probably do this. If I work hard enough at it.
Yeah.
But what a great sport.
For sure. Before we get into some jazz stuff, I was kind of teasing you in studio for an hour, and I've always found you to be a very fascinating person. And obviously, we all remember you as a great player, but you always have something going on. I mean, I think our listeners probably just know T as the jazz player and jazz broadcaster, but that encapsulates like 5% of the man. So what are you doing with your time now? What are some things that are kind of keeping you occupied?
Well, Spence, I think they know. I think I've been around long enough where this state, maybe this region, know that I've always been more than about hoop.
For sure.
Of course, those hoop years with the Jazz, those early ones, even before John and Carl arrived, were very important years. My rookie season was the first season we made the playoffs, and then John came in that next year, and then Carl came in the year after that, and we just kept it rolling. But music was my first love, dude. I mean, I try to tell that to young kids when I go speak, because they want to know that I always play basketball, that I come out of the womb with throwing it in the hoop.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, no, my first love was music, because growing up in D.C., growing up in the environment I did, I needed an outlet.
Yeah.
I was always tall, but I never picked up a basketball until I was an early teenager.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I got cut.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I got cut my first 2 years. I was 6'5" in the 7th grade, 6'7" in the 8th grade. Coach cut me and told me not to come back my last year.
Oh, wow.
Luckily, he got a job at another school.
Huh.
The coach came in, and I went in for tryouts, and I made it. I was still terrible.
What was the first year you had made a competitive team? How old were you?
It was my first competitive team was my JV team in high school.
That is late for a guy that turned out to be a pro.
Yeah. Well,
Holy smokes.
What changed me was the coach in junior high school that kept me.
Okay.
The other coach wanted to win a championship right away.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't in his plans, which I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But the other coach brought me into his office a week after I made the team, because I was the worst. We had 60 guys trying out. I was the worst one in there.
Wow.
And he said, if you want to be but he didn't even say great, Spence. He said, you want to be a good basketball player, you've got a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll come in 1 hour before the team practices, and when we practice for 2 hours, I'll stay 1 hour after, if you want to commit. And I wondered why. And he told me, he said, I see potential there. I see potential in you.
Mm.
And that just changed my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I committed. He made me better. We didn't win a championship or anything, but he gave me the passion to want to continue learning. And I made the JV team in high school. And I had a great leader, and Coach Welch, and he went on to coach me in varsity. And that's when I started really progressing, was when I was in 11th grade, midway through the season, and I started getting offers from different schools.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of knew that my education at least was going to be paid for through basketball.
Okay. But during those early years when you weren't, because I mean, look, I've known you forever, and I just assumed that you were always probably the best player on every team growing up too.
No.
So during those early years when you were trying to make your way through basketball, it was music that was kind of your saving grace.
Tuba, it was trombone. Now, Spence, those were cool instruments. It was tuba, trombone. It was choruses and choirs.
Yeah.
It was madrigals. Music was my thing. My parents bought me a little turntable. You might be too young to remember the 45 records.
Oh, I am a record collector.
One song on each side.
Yeah.
My first one that my parents ever bought me, ABC by the Jackson 5.
Nice.
Was on the one side. And so I loved music. I became very eclectic as I got older and the kinds of music I listened to, from country to jazz to R&B to some rock. So, yeah, music was it for me. I always wanted to be able to perform. You know, I had some voice training as I got older, and you know, and so it's always been that way. So I've released 5 projects already, and possibly another one coming up here in the next year or two.
There you go. And we were talking off air. I have your Christmas album. I mean, what year was that? When'd you release that?
Oh, that was back in 2000 and I don't know, man, 5. Maybe?
Okay.
But they never get old. If you like Christmas music,
Yeah.
you know, you can play that thing forever. That's
Yeah.
probably why I haven't done another one, because people keep telling me they like my Christmas album.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But you go ahead.
So you've released some covers. We were talking about, you know, Bill Withers, Lovely
Ain't
Day.
no sunshine when she's gone.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Have you ever tried songwriting? Have you ever written any originals?
I have.
Okay.
I have. I've got on my last project called "I'm Not the Same." I wrote a couple of songs. I have a great guy named Craig Poole, who's from Canada. That when I met him, he was the most soulful white dude I'd ever met. Dude he's a bass player, man. He can help create great sounds. So I worked with him and co-wrote a few, and had an old friend who passed away named James Marsden, who helped me write a couple of my other ones. And I wrote some myself. Matter of fact, I did a tribute song that people can find on YouTube to Kobe when he passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was, I think it hurt everybody.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't know the sport or wasn't a big fan when he passed away. So
Yeah.
I did a tribute song to him.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
To your point, I mean, I had met Kobe a couple times. I have this great picture of when Kobe was here the last time. He made a point to find Jerry.
Yes.
And Jerry was not well at this time. And I was actually standing right there. And when Kobe went up to shake Jerry's hand, I was able to capture this photo of those two.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I'd interviewed Kobe once. He actually was in town when he was with the Lakers. They were playing the Jazz in the playoffs. It was that famous Kobe air ball when he was a rookie.
Oh, yeah. Remember that.
And he was at Little America, and we were there going to prom. And our team had just won the state championship. And we're all like, who's going to go tell Kobe that we won state, you know? And, of course, it was me, right? So, and he could not have been nicer. He didn't have to talk to us. We were high school kids. But he spent 10, 15 minutes, like, asking us about the state tournament. And I'll never forget, I was just at home getting ready to go to work when I got the alert on my phone that he had passed. And I went, wait, it made, like, 0 sense. Yeah. A sadness overcame me that I was really, really surprised about. Where were you when you heard about that, and what was your reaction?
I was sitting in church with my phone on silent, and it buzzed, and TMZ message came through.
Yeah.
And I didn't believe it at first.
Yeah.
And I looked at it twice, and it was TMZ. I'm like, I'm not sure I've ever seen them put out a lie as far as, you know, celebrities are concerned. So I don't know who was speaking that day, but I didn't really care. I looked at my phone, I was scrolling, and the realization of it being true hit me. Yeah. And I showed, you know, my wife and the kids who were with me, and we were just still in shock.
Yeah.
And just a devastating day for a lot of people.
Yeah. Rocked the NBA world, and obviously his poor young daughter involved in that as well. Not to make this a heavy, sad segment, but since I haven't been able to talk to you, we've also said goodbye to some very important figures over the past few years. I do want to talk about Frank, but let's discuss Coach Sloan and his passing and what Jerry meant to you. I had a really great experience. I was able to go to it was the Jazz Oklahoma City playoff series when it was Joe Ingles on Paul George and that fun, Donovan series. And I was able to go sit next to Coach Sloan for a game. He definitely wasn't well at the time, but he was well enough to, engage with people. For all the people that believed Jerry was this curmudgeon, the smile on his face when people would ask him to take a picture, and he would, he put his arm around everybody and was just I think he was more approachable than most people really understood. But obviously you knew him on a very intimate level. What sort of context can you add to the life of Jerry Sloan?
Well, Jerry's persona to the public or during work days on the court was very different if you were in that circle and you got to know him as a player, a guy who played for him. And I was part of that transition, obviously, from Frank Layden to Jerry Sloan.
Yeah.
But even as an assistant coach, you knew the legend of Jerry Sloan, especially as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't like he was ever treated like an assistant. He was treated like a freaking legend, right?
Yeah.
And somebody that when he spoke, you listened to. He didn't really have to audition to get respect. He already had it. And so that's one of the things I loved about Frank. He was really selective on who he wanted to work with. And I think Jerry would say he taught him a lot. But being a student of Jerry Sloan, what I really liked, and a lot of players, may not have been, not necessarily on my team, but to have a coach like Jerry Sloan tell you like it is at this level, it's not receptive to everybody.
Yeah.
Right? We know stories about players butting heads here and there throughout career, but Jerry never let those kind of things linger. Right? If he had something to say, he'd say it. If he had something to say back, you weren't going to win the argument, right? But even at some points, some players wanted to go fist ups with him, and Jerry, it was like you had to hold Jerry back.
Yeah.
But he never let it linger. He was the kind of guy away from the court you could have a conversation with. He was always a straight shooter. I got the first hint, and he was great about this because it was really not thought of at that time as far as relationship. There was always a disconnect between players and staff, meaning coaches, meaning higher-ups. And Jerry didn't, being a former player, that's not how he operated.
Yeah.
I remember he took me to lunch. We were on the road. I think it was Miami, and I was having a rough stretch. And he obviously had either heard or had some conversations about me possibly being traded. And so he didn't give me any definitive stuff, but he put a seed in my head that, hey, this is a business and there's a possibility that I may not be here. So whether I'm going to be here or not, I better get my game together and get my head together. And then, so I always appreciated that about him.
Yeah.
He actually is the one that got me into broadcasting when I came back for one more year.
Huh.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, he did. He, after the season was over, pulled me aside and asked me what I wanted to do, and I hadn't decided whether I was going to retire yet. He said, well, let me know, because if you feel like, you've had enough, I want you to go set up a meeting with Randy Rigby.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So eventually I did that and been broadcasting now for almost 30 years.
Has it been almost 30? Well, you always had two very key things for a broadcaster: dynamic personality and the voice, dude. Like I get so jealous of the voice, because I don't like listening to myself, but the personality, the engaging personality combined with the voice, you were always going to be good at this. But you had referenced the transition from Frank to Jerry, and I still to this day find this so fascinating because Frank did something that nobody does, which is leave a really good team to the next guy when Frank probably still had years left in the tank. Now, Frank would later joke that if he knew coaches' salaries were going to improve the way that they did, he probably would have stuck around. But didn't you guys had taken the Lakers to 7 the year before, right?
That's right.
And that was like everybody's. I did a school project on that series because it was the coolest thing. Like we had arrived, even though they won in 7. Like we should have beaten them. Anyone who remembers that series remembers that. Where were you when you found out that Frank was actually doing this? And then was there any doubt that it was Jerry's time?
Well, I can't remember exactly where we were. I know Frank was the kind of guy who always talked to his players to let them know before it became public. So
yeah.
We knew as he was making that transition or deciding to make that transition. But it's funny because I loved Frank.
Sure.
And as sad as maybe the moment may have been, it wasn't as big a blow for us because of Jerry, because we knew it was going to be in good hands.
Yeah.
We knew that this guy had learned a lot from Frank. And, yeah, a lot about coaching, but I think Jerry learned a lot about how to communicate and handle players from Frank Layden, because Frank almost always never took the game too serious.
Yeah.
He took it serious enough because it was his job. But I remember one instance on a bus where I think we just got blown out by by the Lakers or something. We're on the bus, maybe going back to the hotel, and he stood up in the front of the bus and said, "Guys, look over there." And we looked out the window, and there was a whole line of homeless people on the side of the road. And he said, "It's just a loss." He said, "I want you guys to put things in perspective. Yeah, we'll be better, but I don't want you to think it's the end of the world."
Yeah.
And so he had a way of doing that. His gifts to us were books.
Yeah.
And so we knew that the transition would be, and we knew Frank would still be around, but we knew it was in good hands with Jerry. We didn't know exactly how good a hands.
Yeah.
But we'd get to see that.
Yeah. I mean, Frank, and you know this better than me or anybody else. He loved his players, And over the years, I have kept all of my interviews I did with Frank. I probably did 30 or 40. Because, when he had passed, I blew out the rundown and we brought Scott on and, my father joined us and we just did, I did it for Jerry too, just a show honoring their lives. And one of the stories Frank told me was about John Drew, a teammate of yours who had all of the talent in the world. And, we could talk about John for quite some time. But there was a situation that took place that John didn't realize this was happening, but somebody had offered, and this is Frank on air, so I'm not speaking out of turn. Somebody had offered John Drew like $10,000 for his pension. He was going to sign his pension away for $10,000 because he was in a state of addiction that he just needed his fix.
Correct.
So he was going to sign away his pension for $10,000. And Frank found out about it and stepped in and helped him understand exactly what he was doing. So therefore, he didn't do that. And that's just like a snapshot moment of who Frank was and how much he just loved and cared about you guys,
Frank did. He was so authentic.
Yeah.
And I think another reason why Frank kind of knew it was time for him, because Frank at one point was everything.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Frank was the front man when things weren't going right. He was the comedian when fans maybe been willing to give up on the team after all those losing seasons.
Yeah.
He kept them in there. Frank was kind of a one-man show for a while. And I always credit him with being a strong part of keeping the franchise alive and here. Because you have to have your guys behind the scenes trying to find the money and make the deals, whether it's going to Vegas for 10 home games and trying that experiment. But Frank wore a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that at some point that just drains you. Where you're not just focusing on winning games.
Yeah.
So, when he decided to step away, it was hats off to him, and I think that was kind of a big relief in a way for him to hand that off to the great Jerry Sloan.
Yeah, one of the guests we had, I think we did. Porter might be able to help me remember. I think we did 2 straight shows that were all about Frank, and one of the guests we had on was Grant Harrison. And Grant told us that Frank would show up at the promotions meetings on Friday. He would leave practice and then go sit in the promotions meeting. And then Jay Francis came on and said he was in our marketing meetings. Yeah. Like, can you imagine Quinn Snyder wrapping up practice and going to a promotions
I probably could not imagine that.
It's just wild to consider. But anyway, Thurl Bailey is live in the studio. All right, that was a fun trip down memory lane. Now let's look ahead. We got Darren Peterson on the ground. We have an exciting year of Jazz basketball. We'll get to that coming up next with Big T right here on ESPN 700. All right, Porter's being prophetic because what do we got here, Thurl? You're going to cover this coming up?
I love this song, man, by Bill Withers.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay.
So if you listen to it's just a simple song, but he delivers it strong, man. It's I just love his stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Stuff.
Thurl Bailey, the legend, Big T, is live in the studio. We were just talking during the break about just some of your old teammates, and I'm sure listeners would love to know how connected you are with John and Carl, and give us an update on them, how they're doing.
They're doing really well. I don't talk to Carl as much live as I talk to John, but I love messaging. Like, I have this picture in my office with me, John, and Carl in a little trio huddle on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent the picture to both of them. I was feeling some kind of way one day, and I just sent it to them, and I thanked them for just great memories, for teaching a guy who was here before them, for teaching me something about discipline and hard work, and how to come in prepared every season. They helped push me to be a better player.
Yeah.
And then they quickly get back to me, and we say, "I love you, man," and then sometimes John will try to sneak in under the radar, and he'll call and see if we've got time for lunch.
Yeah.
But those are guys you just never lose contact with. It just meant so much to you.
I always have a tough time because, the job of a media member these days in the media ecosystem sometimes can get a little exhausting because you're supposed to do a hot take on who the greatest of all time is, or like, give me your top 10, this, that, or whatever. And I just always hesitate to compare generations because the game has changed and the league has changed.
That's right.
But there's always this big debate about John specifically. Like, could John Stockton play in the modern day of the NBA? It's like, if you're asking that question, you didn't watch John play.
Never be a question.
Right.
Should never, ever be a question. But I think the measuring stick that this new generation goes by is how exciting you can be, how dynamic you can be. It's not about, a guy who's just a gym rat and just gets it done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Who's going to break his assist record?
Yeah.
Who's going to break his steals record? Those things, still matter. And I think the game is great. It's exciting. Athletes are so much more dynamic now because the game is really positionless.
Yeah.
And the three-point shot wasn't as glamorous a thing, of course, in our era or in my era. But John can play in any era because it's a fundamentally sound game that gets the job done. And I'm not sure there was anybody else. There may have been more exciting players, but I don't know if there was anyone who worked harder or endured, got through pain. John or Carl wasn't about to miss a game.
Yeah.
And you didn't know that they were only 75, 80% on the court.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't show that.
Yeah.
So, it's a different era. It's a great era. But I try not to compare either. I was one of those old OGs years ago that, why this, why that. You can't do that.
Right.
Because there's no level comparison in some places.
Yeah, I was on a flight the other day. Well, it was a few weeks back. And NBA TV occasionally will do like a hardwood classic, and it was a Jazz game, and I can't remember if it was a playoff game, but I think it was Jazz Sonics, back with those great Gary Payton, duels that they had, and they came back in. It was the start of the fourth quarter. They're like, "Welcome back in." Start of the fourth quarter. John Stockton with 22 assists, and I just started laughing. I was like, "It's the start of the fourth, and he has 22 assists." Yeah, what a player. Let me ask you one more question since you actually were here before John, because, Frank and Scott have this great story of Jack Gardner kind of turning them on to John and like, you should take a look at him. And as all the Jazz guys say, if anyone knew John was going to be John, he would have been long gone before the Jazz could have drafted him. But the Jazz had a point guard. It was Ricky Green. It was the fastest of them all. He was an all-star. So John was kind of brought in to potentially be a backup, and we'll see what happens. Since you were here before, when did you start to notice, like, well, wait a second, we've got something pretty special in this John Stockton kid?
Well, it definitely wasn't as soon as he got here.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, John would tell you he held out for an extra $10,000, I think.
Oh, really? 10
Yeah.
grand. Oh, that's funny.
But first of all, I remember when he was drafted, and everybody was perplexed. They were either perplexed or they were booing, or booing and perplexed. Why did Jazz make that pick? Because nobody knew what a Gonzaga was, first of all.
Yeah.
And who's this white kid that nobody's ever heard about? But I think that said a lot about the way the decision makers at that time, and you have to remind me, was your dad part of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought he was.
Second year. And
I think that's pretty astute to look at all these great players and say, that's the guy we need for this team. Mm-hmm. And whether you have the foresight to see what he could become, I'm sure you didn't see that. But just like we do with players today, what can he be for us? And so when he got here, we connected right away. I was the wing guy. I was the guy who, gave him a ride and went and picked him up. He was saving money, though. And we whenever we talk, we crack about it because it's true. John didn't know whether he was going to last. So he was saving every penny. His favorite pancake, I know, is Krusty's. He may have eaten that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because that's what he had in his cabinet. And his apartment was cold because, he didn't know how much heat was going to cost. So he was saving every dime.
Yeah.
Because he didn't know, if he was going to make it in this league. And I started to notice certain things in practice because Ricky was good.
Sure.
Ricky was fast. Ricky was teaching him. And I could see John just absorbing everything. He was a sponge. And then you'd have these moments, as we got later in the season and practices and stuff, where the gym rat was coming out. Mm-hmm. The competitive John Stockton was coming out. And so I think I knew towards the end of that first season that he could be special. And if I remember, I didn't get a ton of time that first year. But when the decision was made that he was going to be the guy, he just stepped up.
Yeah.
It was a nonchalant thing. It was like, okay, I'm ready to go to work.
Yeah.
And he did. I mean, he was the standard. He and Carl, when they got here, Carl had to establish himself for a year. He went under AD's arm, his wing, and learned a lot from AD. And that was hard to do because AD was real territorial in his game.
Yeah. This is Adrian Danley for our younger listeners. Yeah.
But he let Carl in.
Yeah.
Carl learned a lot. And so that was really the beginning of course, one of the greatest duos in the history of the game. But you could see signs. And then when all those signs came together, there were times when I was, tried to get him to shoot more. Right? But that's not who he was. He was a pass-first point guard.
Yeah.
But he could shoot.
Yeah.
And I think as he began to establish himself as other things, people go look at the stats. John he and Carl probably have the most turnovers in Jazz history. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they took chances.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they succeeded. And so that's the kind of players they were. And John was, I think some of those moments when the games started and I'm running on the fast break and don't think I'm open, and all of a sudden the ball's in my hands. How in the world?
Yeah.
He had a specialty. He had a specialty of just using that one hand off the dribble and using those big. His hands were almost big as mine.
Yeah. Yep.
And getting the ball where he needed to get it to.
Am I remembering correctly that his assist to break the record was to you?
I think it was to Carl. I can't remember, but I knew there was a special night when I got one of his dimes and the announcer came on. I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
Maybe it was a single game or single season. There was an assist. There was an assist that broke a record that was to you.
Yeah, I remember being a part of something like that once.
Yeah.
Carl all the other times.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Right. Yeah. All right, T. We got a few minutes left here, so let's hone in on what I think is going to be a really exciting year. But I do want to start with the decision to trade Walker to the Lakers, which caught me off guard a little bit. And I talked to Austin about this, and he said, look, it's a value play. Ultimately, we wanted Walker back, and we thought he was going to be back. I interviewed Ryan and Austin 3 weeks ago, and they both talked about how excited they were, and Walker was part of the plan. But this league, restricted free agents don't typically bring you 4 unprotected first-round picks because you have the right to bring them back. And if they want to leave, it's just rare to be able to have that type of value.
Yeah.
I like him. I'm bummed that he's not around, but I felt like maybe it's too much value to say no to.
Yeah, and as a former player, the business of basketball is what it is. It's a negotiation, right? And not just on the ownership side and the team side, but the player and his agent trying to make the best decision for them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think his presence in the paint will be missed because I think he had or still has the ability to be one of the great rim protectors in this league. And he's unusual in a sense, too, because he runs the floor. He doesn't have to block your shot. He can affect it. And he has this thing where he goes up with 2 hands, where a lot of shot blockers just track the ball with 1. And he was starting to learn how to be an effective offensive player in the paint, which he didn't have when he first got here. Right, he would get right at the rim and kick it out almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he put the work in and started working on his game. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where you have a player who is developing like you've wanted him to.
Mm-hmm.
He's put the work in. So, yeah, I think he'll be missed at times. People will say, well, I wish we had Walker. But it really is the business of basketball. You wish him well. He garnered some really great relationships here, and I think we'll see the results of that when we meet the Lakers here or in L.A. But, yeah, he was a great value piece, and that's how the business is, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the thing that makes you understand why the Lakers were motivated to do this, because 4 unprotected first, that's a lot to give up for a center that's coming off an injury. But every team in the league probably has to look at what San Antonio has with that kid and wonder what we can add to our team to at least provide a little pushback the way the Knicks were able to do with Cat and Mitchell Robinson, who's now in Boston. So, you understand why the Lakers did it, but as far as the motivation for the Jazz, does it feel like we're still maybe a few years away from being able to throw punches with OKC and San Antonio? Because part of me feels like they may feel like they have 2 superstar potential players and they're both 19 in Ace and Darren. You know what I mean?
Well, I think when you look at the progression of teams, you look at what OKC has done,
Mm-hmm.
I think they've got some decisions to make, too. I
Yeah.
mean, they've got a great player in SGA, don't get me wrong. But I think there are other teams that are going to be able to – San Antonio had their number regular season.
Yep.
So I think there are other teams that are going to be able to compete better with them. I think the Jazz are one of them, at least on paper right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's a lot that remains to be seen. We know that this Jazz team is uber talented.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We know they're uber talented. We know that it's time to go and try to place our stamp in that playoff race, right? And then see where that goes. Are we a couple of years away? Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I think it's not too far away, though, based on what I see and what I've seen. I mean, I've seen I've seen Darren Peterson play in the summer league. Yeah, it's summer league, but a lot of that's going to translate.
Yeah.
You put a guy in a certain position on a team and tell him what he needs to do and what he needs to learn to be effective, he's going to be effective right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too, and Steve Wojciechowski because your boy played for Steve at Marquette. Steve coached the summer league team. I wonder if you think the way Steve used Darren is the way that Will is going to use him as kind of the ball-in-hand primary decision maker, or is that a lot to ask of a 19-year-old in the NBA?
No, well, I think summer league is a place to test it. I would have to believe that Wojo and Will had those conversations,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that they put him in a position to be a leader right away and see how he would handle it. And I thought he handled it really well here. Again, when you're playing against the greatest players in the world at the real level when things really count, it's going to be a transition. There is no rookie, I don't care how good they were before, is going to come in totally NBA ready with all the things that come with it.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when you're 19 and the rules are different for you in other ways. But it's all about development. But I think that Summer League was a really good test for him. I remember Ace Bailey last year, and Ace is going to be a great player in his own right. But he came out, and I think it was a little much for him early on, right? He wanted it all like that game. And I remember the Jazz kind of reeling him back and saying, we don't need you to do everything. We just need you to focus on this part of the game. And when he did that, he just started to explode. And when he got those minutes last season, you could see a different Ace Bailey emerging other than the one that likes the mid-range shot. Now you're going to the hoop. Now you're following up misses and dunking. And so, yeah, look, man, if things in my mind, if my vision of what this team could be comes true, it's going to be just a very, very, very exciting season with all the talent that Jazz have and all of the development that a lot of the young players. I don't know what the roster is going to finally look like.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a good one.
So Jaren Jackson Jr. brought in last year. The Jazz were set to potentially have some cap space to use. They elected to do it with pre-free agency by making that trade to bring in Jaren. And, we've seen a lot of it feels like Will really understands and grasps and can communicate with his players how he wants them to play offensively, right? A lot of motion, a lot of ball movement, a lot of sharing the ball. It's on the defensive end that the roster needed some upgrades, and then we'll see what it looks like now that, there's some reinforcements. Of course, Jaren Jackson Jr., former Defensive Player of the Year, you referenced the rim protection that Walker would have provided. Yusuf Nurkic brought back, averaged nearly 5 assists, but doesn't necessarily block a lot of shots. Jackson Hayes, Mo Bamba, but you add Jaren Jackson Jr. to the mix. Defensively, T, what do you think it's going to look like next year?
Well, you've got options, right?
Yeah.
You've got options. I think what definitely has to improve is on-ball defense.
Mm-hmm.
However, players are just too good to guard one-on-one.
Yeah.
Right? We know that. We've got some guys who put guys island and island. So those guys have to do a better job, first of all, making it tough. But now you've got options. You've got Jaren Jackson Jr. You still have, even if Nurk is not a rim protector per se, he's a big body.
Yeah.
He's a big body, and he can do a lot of other things. For me, one of the best screen setters in the league. He's going to get you open. He's going to use that body. He may not, have a 30-inch vertical to get rebounds, but he's savvy. He's going to use his body to get a rebound or allow his teammates to get it. So there's some things you may have to do differently. You have to have expectations in other guys who are going to be getting some of those minutes to come in and do what they do best. Not everybody can score, but if your job is to come in and make a difference defensively, that's how you're going to earn your minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers, like that and rim protection, I think are going to be the two. I call the defensive side the great equalizer because there are going to be nights you're not going to shoot well. But if your defense is on point and you're not allowing them to get those runs, then you're in it. You're in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what Will and his staff are going to be implementing and charging these guys on the defensive end to become, because the offense is going to be there. We got weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me go back to Darren for a moment, because as it was put to me, there were more than a few fist pumps in the room when AJ went 1 to Washington. And I love AJ. I think AJ is going to be awesome. Like, you don't have to pick one or the other. I think AJ is great. Yeah. And if AJ fell to 2, I think it would have been awesome to have him here because he has the experience of living in our state. And I always hesitate to do the comparison thing because I think it puts a vision in the minds of fans that if he's not that, then it's a failure. But you do hear some Kobe stuff. You hear some Devin Booker stuff. And as far as the comparisons go, when you watch him, if he's able to, A, stay healthy, which is the key for everybody, as you know, and B, put in the work to become the best possible player that he can be, what do you think that looks like in 4 or 5 years?
Well, the only Kobe comparison I'll use is the fact that was his hero.
Yeah.
And that's who he tried to pattern a lot of his game after. It's way too early to compare him to someone as great as that, but that's a good goal to work towards, to try to be like him, have the effect on your team. And you're right about the AJ thing. We couldn't lose.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think, in my mind, for this team and for what we've seen with players like Keontae, with players like Ace Bailey, what kind of player do you need to complement those guys? What does he have to complement this team to make it better? And will those things translate from what we've seen him do at a college level to the NBA?
Mm-hmm.
And the Jazz have a keen eye for that. But it really is about the structure of this team and how Will Hardy coaches. I mean, he could make anything work, but you talked about his intricate offenses. There's so many options there, right? When you have a guy like Lauri Markkanen who can, oh my gosh, with his size, do what he does.
Yeah.
Now you can probably take Keontae off the ball at times, and you can interchange those pieces if Darren Peterson, he's still got to earn it.
Sure,
Right?
yeah.
I mean,
And Will's going to make him, right?
He is going to make him earn it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing he will love, talking about Darren, is the culture. Because a lot of guys, when they don't see that, they don't know that right away. They just know what they've heard other people talk about Utah and this and that. But I'm telling you, guys who have been here and understand the culture of what they're getting into, especially with Will and his staff, they're going to thrive.
Yeah.
And so the development is still the biggest part, but we got the right guy.
But before I set you loose, you alluded to what I wanted to end with, and that is we were talking during the break. How long has Utah been your home now?
I'm going to say 33 years. 33
years. And there continues to be, and it's mostly from ignorance folks from the outside looking in about what Utah actually is. And I'm coming up on my 30-year high school reunion, and my friends back east, they all say the same thing, when are you coming home? And I say, I am home. Mm-hmm. And for the second straight year, we've had a narrative, whether it's fair or unfair, created like Ace had some folks around him that apparently were saying we want him in Washington, we don't want him to live in Utah. And then Darren only worked out for Washington, but it's because he wanted to be the number one pick.
Right.
It's not because he didn't want to live here. But when you hear people across the ecosystem talk about Utah as an undesirable place for NBA players to live, as someone who's lived here for 33 years, you say what?
Well, I don't know if that kind of talk is exactly the same when I came here. Because it was a culture shock.
I'm sure it was.
Right. I went to grew up in D.C.
Yeah.
Predominantly black area. My culture was different. I came to Utah, couldn't find a black dude anywhere except on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I did find one on my way to practice at the same bus stop I used to wave to Charlie every single day. But my point is that I didn't really struggle when I came here. I think culturally I had some adjustments to make, but I was welcome. And I heard all kinds of things about the Mormon culture and there's no black people there and this and that. And when I got here and kind of settled in, first of all, it was one of the most beautiful places I'd ever been in my whole life.
Yeah.
When I landed, it was just so picturesque. But I would say that is not maybe the same rhetoric or talk that we're hearing today, because I think there's been so many players who have come here and players who are still in that NBA circle who have had the Utah experience, right? And I'm not sure. There's always going to be some. With any city, really, you're going to get some. But I think Utah has been kind of beat up over the years over that.
Yeah.
But I really believe it's a different conversation now. It's a come here and try it, and let's see how you like it.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you that those who have, for the most part, and embraced it, they've loved it. Even when they've left, they've loved it.
Yeah.
And so there are guys who never played here who have come back to build a second home here and enjoyed it. Michael Jordan did that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert still lives here. And he told me, I'm never getting rid of that house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a different kind of conversation. But, yeah, this is 30-something years for me. And All it took was a girl.
That usually does it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Thurl, I love and respect you. Appreciate your time in studio. Would love to do it again soon, okay?
Yes, you're the best, Spence. Thank you.
All right, the great Thurl Bailey. We got 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Keep it here on ESPN 700. You know, I was hoping we were going to get Big T to sing a little bit, and he dropped a few bars. I'm jealous of that voice, man. I mean, not just his talking voice, but that guy can sing.
He's got some pipes.
Very impressive. Good stuff from Thurl today. Walk down memory lane. Got a lot of texts from some old Jazz fans. I could do John Stockton, Karl Malone, Frank Layden, Jerry Sloan stories, Mark Eaton, Bobby Hansen, Kerry Scurry, John Drew, Ricky Green, Mark Ivoroni. Should I stop? Rich Kelly.
Keep going.
I could probably do 4 hours of 80s and 90s jazz talk for weeks at a time.
I was trying to think of like the most obscure name I could think of, but
Jim
Adam
Les.
O'Keefe.
It's Adam Keefe.
Oh, it's not O'Keefe.
No, just Adam Keefe.
John Amici.
That's a good one. Jim Les, Jim Farmer,
Blue Edwards,
Bart Kofed. You don't want to play this game with me, but Thurl was here before John and Carl. He was with Adrian Dantley and John Drew and all those guys prior to John being drafted and then Carl being drafted. It's funny because he was talking about what year my father took the Jazz job. My father took the Jazz job the same year Thurl was drafted. And everybody's lives changed when they drafted John and Carl. Like, I remember when I was at the U, professor gave me an assignment to find somebody who was working in the industry that I was interested in and go interview them. This would have been 1997, 1998. And I went and interviewed Scott Layden, who was the GM of the Jazz. And one of the questions I had for him, I said, who's the most important person in the Jazz organization? And I was convinced he was going to say Larry, who was the owner, Larry Miller. He didn't hesitate. He said, it's John Stockton and Karl Malone. He said it's a tie between John Stockton and Karl Malone. So, like, Thurl drafted in 83, my father taking the job in 83, drafting John and Karl, everyone views that run as this magical thing that changed everybody's lives, but it is really about those two. And it's also about Frank. It's also about Thurl. It's also about Mark Eaton. It's also about Jeff Hornacek and Scott Layden and Larry Miller. But without John Stockton and Karl Malone, none of it works.
You can have the best supporting cast possible. If you don't have those guys, especially in sports, especially at the top flight of sports, you're just not gonna get there. Now, even if you have those guys, as we've seen, you can still take second place.
Yep.
That's how hard it is to get to the mountaintop in the pro sports world.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. So if you missed the hour with Thurl, check out the podcast or check out the website. It was a lot of fun to catch up with him today. All right, Porter, what's coming up on a Wednesday edition on the road, Oak Ridge Country Club, of this radio show?
Yeah, you'll be out on site there, of course, for the event. Sammy Mora stops by the program. We'll talk some Utes with her. Max Bredos will stop by talking some soccer, some RSL, some World Cup. Our friend Ben Solak with some NFL offseason football. And then hoping for our guy Easton Folster on site out there at Oak Ridge.
There you go. That will be a fun Wednesday edition of the show as we'll get you halfway through that work week and one day closer to the weekend. Special thank you today to Kyle Bonagura, John Kimball, Thurl Bailey as well. Some good stuff. If you missed any of it, it is online for your consumption at ESPN700sports.com. Definitely check out our mobile app and take us on the go. Best way to listen to the station. Then check out the podcast page, 2 of them for you. Reality Check with Spence Checketts, wherever you get your shows. And then obviously this program, The Drive with Spence Checketts, which is this show in podcast form every single day. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Tuesday evening. We'll talk to you on a Wednesday show live at Oak Ridge Country Club. And as always, you can catch it right here on ESPN 700.